Well, there's a few things going on in the news today. Elizabeth Warren, in a surprising turn of events, has come out against Bitcoin, against crypto, against the crypto corruption. And I've got to hand it to him. The crypto corruption thing with Trump is it is a good tagline. It's a good moniker. It's so good. And again, two things can be true in life. Trump can be doing a lot of deranged things. Can also be doing a lot of great things. And unfortunately, nuance is not a lot of what we have in life today. So what is good, special Thursday live stream here. We're going to talk about a few things today. Saylor and the Bitcoin Consortium coming out here today. Got some news, a newsy day, just a newsy day. So really first though, let's play Elizabeth Warren. Make sure we get that for you guys, and we can play that. See what old Liz is up to. And let me know if you guys can hear this as well.
1.4 billion. That's what Donald Trump made off cryptocurrency last year alone, while working Americans are struggling to afford groceries and rent. Senate Republicans just released their updated version of the Clarity Act, a bill meant to regulate crypto, and it's going to a vote on the floor. That's a glaring omission. It does not stop Donald Trump from cashing in on his presidency. A new poll found Trump's crypto earnings are deeply unpopular with Americans. And let's be clear, this is our best chance to rein in President Trump's crypto corruption. If that's not bad enough, this latest draft bill would make it easier for criminals, and cartels and terrorists to move money and finance their operations. And it fails to protect investors in our financial system. Look, this isn't regulation. This is a giveaway. This bill should be dead on arrival.
So I think there's something that's really, so we're going to talk some BIP-110 today, civil wars, adversarial thinking. Unfortunately, Bitcoiners have seemed to lose the ability to think adversarially. And I've got something we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about things from, you can not like what someone thinks. You can not like other people, but you can still treat them with love and respect. And as you know here, anyone who's been here for a while, that's how we try to come at everything. First principles approach, common sense, logic, physics, faith first, and knowing that, understanding that's where the goodness comes from. And then on earth, can we use those other principles to then guide what we're doing here? And we can treat others with love and respect. Even though you could have hatred towards someone or really not like them or really not like what they stand for or what they're saying, it doesn't mean we can't be good humans still. So we're going to talk about that because I have a bunch of thoughts about that. And I want to get some of your guys' thoughts too. We just need to kind of talk and chill out today about stuff. But first, I think Elizabeth Warren is onto something. And the crypto corruption stuff, you guys know my thoughts with the British Crown, what's really been controlling stuff for 400 plus years. This is something that I'm really disappointed with in terms of Bitcoiners, not knowing their history, not knowing, making the connections, understanding central banking, understanding the East India Company, the British East India Company, the Dutch East India Companies, not understanding that that's where these things all emanate from, and then that leading into the raping and pillaging of all kinds of continents and all kinds of countries, and then leading into really this last 150 years of intelligence apparatuses that have been built up and figuring out a better way to basically mind control people, whether it's a government-run schooling system, which we've talked about ad nauseum here over time, and the Prussian school system, the compulsory school system, conform, comply, obey, so people can't critically think. But I am very disappointed with Bitcoiners in that sense of not being able to see the forest from the trees from a lot of these things, missing out on the follow the money. And which goes into the consortium thing, the Bitcoin Consortium. And stuff like this, as Bitcoiners, you have to coalesce, like you have to have a coalition, you have to have things. What makes Bitcoin tough is that there is no CEO, there is no centralized control structure. And that's what also makes it great at the same time. But it makes it tough. And this is where time and patience comes in, and people don't have time and patience, right? None of us do. We all want it right now. And this is what leads us, ironically, into a Saylor for years has said activity bias gets in our way, doing dumb things, basically tripping over our own ding-dongs. That's what's going to hurt us in the end, at the end of the day. And really, it's death by 1,000 cuts. What I'm getting at is you have a world of intelligence apparatuses and the frog in the boiling pot scenarios where you look at COVID, where don't believe what your eyes are seeing, listen to what I'm saying instead. I go back to Bill de Blasio. I've talked about this in New York City. saying, hey, you need a cheeseburger. You got to get a cheeseburger in order to get something injected into yourself. Well, if it's so amazing, then why do I need you railing against it, right? So these are, or railing for it. These are the things that we kind of lost as Bitcoiners. The adversarial thinking has taken a backseat to magical thinking and thinking that everyone has our best interests at heart. Bitcoin is being attacked 24/7 all the time. Everything is propaganda. It's all propaganda. Media is propaganda, schools propaganda, and being able to cut through that noise and actually discern these things are what's really important at the end of the day. So I'm going to talk more. Let's shelf some of that for a second, but let's talk about Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren, again, Bitcoiners do a massive disservice as well, because we talk a lot of times logically speaking, and we don't talk with emotion. What does Elizabeth Warren do? She comes up here and says, it's terrorism, it's cartels, all these different things. Mind you, Trump's blasting cartels out of the ocean, but she's telling you it's okay with the finding. But then Elizabeth Warren came in against banks, but she's okay now. She's in bed with all the banks who are doing the most corruption and fraud everywhere. JP Morgan spamming the chain, so to speak, way more. Then they'll take some fines and say, that's okay. I'm fine with the fines. That's not a big deal, because I'm making way more spamming the chain. That's JP Morgan's business model. That's a lot of the business model. We saw that with we've seen it with Bank of America creating all kinds of fake accounts, spam, right? It's a profitable business. Look at the call centers in India. Mark Rober, my kids watch a Mark Rober video, and they got the call centers all over, spamming, frauding, defrauding people. And so this is the life we live in. And this is where I have a problem. And I've been doing a lot more research in this. We're going to have a lot more videos going forward into this, because again, I think I was hoodwinked. I think many Republican people, libertarian people, Bitcoiners have been hoodwinked over time into thinking that the free market's just going to take care of all these things. This is why I started in the beginning. We always start a lot of times with talking about faith at first. People want to isolate faith like it's just like it's over there. A belief in a higher power, humbling myself, getting on my hands and knees and saying, hey, I'm not worthy. I'm smaller than you. I don't make the rules of the universe. And when we don't do that, now it's just free market. It's just free for all. When you aren't following a set of rules, now you're able to just spam the hell out of life. I can do whatever I want. Brandon can make his own mind up today, and then he makes up a new mind tomorrow, and then a new mind tomorrow. When you have immigration rules and you say, hey, we've got these set of rules, but then no one follows them. Or we've got these voter ID rules or laws or regulations, or we have these banking rules, but no one follows them, or only certain people follow them. This is where problems start. And so this is the problem we find ourselves in society. We find it in Bitcoin when we are in this world of, if we're not going to protect the rules and we're not going to weed our garden, and we're not going to actually have good people stand and say, hey, no. I'm accounting for what's going on here. I'm verifying what's happening. The protocol is this. A censorship-resistant permissionless money doesn't mean you just do whatever the fuck you want. That's not how society works. There's a rule set. If you don't like it, then you can go somewhere else, right? You can go spam another chain. You can go do something else. It's very simple, or spin up your own Bitcoin or whatever, right? That's what a lot of people, I think, have forgotten. It's the censorship and permissionless nature of things has got into people's heads to a degree that we think there's no rules. Like, it's just like, oh, just spam it and like the free market's going to take over. And then I would just, again, point people to a Genghis Khan, or I'd point people to the biggest, baddest military. And look, we see what's going on in Iran. If you don't have the biggest, baddest military, guess what? That military can spam harder. The guy with the infinite money printer can spam harder. So unless you make it so there's some type of a mechanism that can say, hey, this is a rule set, and if you don't fit in this rule set, then get GTFO, then what are we doing here at the end of the day? So again, I keep digressing here, but the Elizabeth Warren thing is the emotional aspect is what's so important, because she appeals to most people, unfortunately, because she, like we said, all the contradictions and all the things that are going on, and her getting off a private plane and trying to hide behind people, but she's really, for a green climate and blah, 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 right? If she was really for a green climate, she'd be a big Bitcoiner again, but we digress. So when you have a world where you just hear terrorist financing, or you just hear cartels, people, they go, oh, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. You talk to 100 people on the street, and at least 99 of them are going to tell you, yeah, I don't want that. I can't have that. We can't have that. And so unless we start shaping and reshaping how we're speaking about Bitcoin and remove ourselves from the 21 million or things like that, the average person isn't going to lock onto that. They don't care. And so it's how does it affect my life? and most people, again, especially in the West, they're not getting taken out of the banking system right now. There's no need for them at this moment. And so the existential threat is just not there. And so here's where we find ourselves in this world. And then again, when we try to start round peg square holing things and saying, hey, we need another ETF, or we need another treasury company, or we need another country to come into Bitcoin. If we can't tell at this point, no amount of debate or a new country coming in is going to spur on adoption. We're seeing it right now with influencers. The more influencers say, hey, I'm against BIP-110, the more people are like, hey, F you, F off. So we might have to retire the word influencer after this as well, which will be phenomenal. Influencer is like one of the most fiat word and the most cringe word there is. And it's apropos that in Bitcoin, we're about to retire that word influencer because it just shows that you have no influence, basically, at this point. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. Everyone runs their own node. Everyone has a vote in the system. We can actually verify the votes. We actually see what's happening, unlike the political system, which we can't. If there's no auditing mechanism, I therefore can 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, conclude that there is fraud in the system, because that's human nature. The incentives of the system tell us that. And that's the adversarial thinking. That's me telling the story of, I cheated at Monopoly all the time when I played against my sister when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, because I was a banker and I just keep stealing money out of the toll. And I just did it because I wanted to beat her. I was competitive. There was no reason to, right? Other than that. And so the greatest power in the world, which is really controlling human beings, number one. But how do you do that, logistically speaking? Well, you do it, you can take their soul, literally and figuratively, and there's ways to do that, which we'll talk about another day. That's not time for now. But you use it through the communication structure. You use it through the psyops and the money you use, the actual language of money that goes around the world that knows no language barriers. It's just, here's money, here's transaction, here's the accounting of transaction, the transaction that was had. If you're selling a piece of art, it is then accounted for on the time chain, on the ledger. We're not putting all of the transactions in the time chain, what's actually happening. I'm not making a scribble of the time chain itself in the time chain, in the ledger book, and doodling all over it. I am just accounting for all of the transactions that are going on in the economy. So that to me is, again, where we need to get back to and just, calm ourselves and breathe a little bit. Because Elizabeth Warren, whether we like it or not, she is winning. At least in that little sphere, she's winning in this sense of speaking to the average person, because the average person they're fearful. They don't want trafficking. They don't want these things. So until a Bitcoiner and Bitcoiners really start talking to the average person, saying, hey, are you sick of rising costs everywhere, right? Are you sick of all these things in your life, all the things that you bitch about? Do you really like green energy? If you really do, then the biggest renewable source of a user of renewables energy is Bitcoin mining. Stranded energy, captured energy, flared gas, all these different things you actually want. If you actually cared about this, Greta Thunberg, right? All these people in your family, then you would love Bitcoin mining. That's the beauty of Bitcoin itself. It has things for all sides of the debate. It has something for everyone. That's the beauty of it. But we tend to not talk like that, because that's not how many Bitcoiners' brains think. We think about it from a logical, it's the left brain versus right brain thinking. So, but again, this is time. And where I'm going with this, and we've talked about it before, is time. And I tweeted out earlier today, I believe, that we overcomplicate all this. Humans tend to overcomplicate things. Governments will print forever. Bitcoin is capped at 21 million. Therefore, the Bitcoin price in USD terms, in all government fiat currencies, and the purchasing power of Bitcoin will continue to rise over time. So you have to protect the network. You have to, one of the beautiful things, like, again, I think I tweeted out earlier, is that contention. Contention is amazing. Emotions are great because it shows you who's who. It snuffs out and smokes out who people are, who's in the foxhole, who really loves the battle, whose incentives are showing at the end of the day. And that's what's amazing. Like for me, again, I got rid of all of our sponsors. I have 1 or 2 affiliate links. We do stuff a little differently here now. I don't care at the end of the day. I literally don't care. I have 4 kids and 2 on the way. Like I don't care if I never interview Saylor. Like I just don't care. It's not that's not what my life, my identity is built on. It's just not at all, right? So he won't come on the show before. He is not going to now. I don't care. He came to Bitcoin because of the plebs, because of the node runners. That is what makes Bitcoin interesting. It's the culture. It's one of the big reasons I left real estate, gold and silver, all that, because of the toxicity inside of Bitcoin. People that wouldn't be told what to do. That is interesting. That's fascinating. It's the small, irate minority, which I want to show you guys quick, that the Battle of Lexington, the shot heard around the world, right? 70 people. The Battle of Lexington, let me see, I got to find you guys again, make this bigger. Hold on. The Battle of Lexington occurred on April 19, 1775. It was the first battle of the American Revolution. Around 70 local militia stood on the town field, Lexington, Massachusetts, Lexington Green. They faced 700 British soldiers, so 10 times the amount. An unknown person fired the first shot, and the fight ended with 8 colonists dead. So what happened right after that, right? They were marching to come take the weapons of the colonists and take their stuff or burn it or whatever. So they started marching on to Concord, a number of miles away. So the Patriot and British soldiers fought in Concord, primarily at the North Bridge. They met them at the North Bridge, also obviously on that day, later that day. The North Bridge, so there were about 400 colonial militiamen confronting 100 British regulars guarding the bridge. The British fired a warning volley, and the Patriots returned fire, what became known as a shot heard around the world. And the British retreated after suffering casualties, and then ran all the way back to Boston, which I believe it says here. The fighting did not stop at the bridge. After the British retreated 18 miles back to Boston, east back towards Boston, the Patriots ambushed them from behind trees, stone walls, and houses all along this route, which is now part of the Minuteman National Historic Park. So that is the legacy of where we come from. So right here, we have 10 people leave right there, right? We're talking about history. We're talking about battling what's actually happening, and people leave, right? This is where patience comes in. Patience, patience, patience. People want the simple answer. They want the Ozempic. They want it right now. They want some easy button answer. There is no easy button answer. Saylor came because of the toxicity. The interesting part is the 70 men, a small irate minority, saying, I don't care. I don't care. Sorry, King, you're not doing it. That's what's interesting. That is the part that if you take that away, if that goes away, then Bitcoin is no longer interesting, right? America is not interesting. America doesn't happen if those things don't take place. So this is why people don't ultimately care. People aren't flying to Bitcoin because of Michael Saylor. Saylor came to Bitcoin because of the plebs and because of the node runners. Node runners didn't come to Bitcoin because of Michael Saylor. Does that make sense? So again, we get this confused. Everyone gets this confused. We all get it confused. It is tough at times to really understand. It's what makes it attractive. It's what makes Bitcoin attractive. The node runners, the protocol outside of the system. And what have we done the entire time? It's been people trying to gaslight or force feed a different narrative. Because we're not. The thing I was thinking about earlier is, again, the old Andreas talk, which I forgot to find. Actually, I was going to find it. I'll try to find it in the background here. But it's the old Andreas Antonopoulos video of him talking about the CIA. Let me find this. And it's a really important talk because he's talking. Here we go. This is an incredibly important talk. And then we need to talk about what happens here.
Just a quick follow-up on that.
Let me know if you guys can hear this.
Do you have any concerns about a large nation state that has interest in just actively destroying Bitcoin to make their own, super rigs and design chips and just throw hundreds of millions or billions of dollars to intentionally disrupt the blockchain?
Yeah, I don't worry about that at all. This cannot be done with Bitcoin anymore. This is something that can only be done with nascent altcoins. Bitcoin has achieved a level of computing that no single nation state can overthrow it through computation alone. The effort to do so would require a massive covert operation of chip fabrication then the coordinated assault that would give them dominance over the next block for 10 minutes until we kick those bastards off the network, rework the protocol around them. They would be revealed. They would have lost $1 billion doing this, and all they got to do was one double spend. Now, here's the thing. Long before we get to that point, they figure out that if they just let this stuff run, they can actually get some Bitcoin as a reward.
Is that better?
The
Let me see.
incentive structure actually works. And so I'm not worried about that. And a lot of people are watching the blockchain. And as I said before, what are they going to do? So they take over and they fork the blockchain and they go somewhere, right? They've created an alternative blockchain. Great. What are we going to do? Who's going to join the NSA blockchain?
All right, hold on.
Anybody want to jump on FedCoin?
All right, so you guys can hear. I turned it all the way up. I don't know what's going on with it. So the whole point is that he's saying that. All right, there we go. He's saying that if the Fed comes or CIA or somebody comes to fork the chain, that everyone will be like, okay, cool. I don't care. See you, buddy. Everyone will be able to choose. But this goes back to conform, comply, obey, government-run schooling. Most people have never been taught to critically think, haven't been through military school or law school even, or something to really even teach critical thinking. We're not taught it in government-run schools. So it's going to be insidious, slow ways over time that these things happen. The frog in the boiling pot. This is how the Crown, this is how the intelligence agencies, this is how these things happen. They don't happen like, they don't knock on your door and say, hey, we're taking all your firearms away. No, of course they don't. They do a million other things to constrict your ability to do it. They say, well, if you want a concealed carry, then you've got to do this and this. And then 5 years later, 2 years later, like, well, you got to do this and this also. And then another 5 years, well, you got to do that, and then this and this and this. And so this is how eventually you turn around one day and you say, wow, no one's even concealed carrying anymore. There's no point, because they made it so onerous to do it that, and so he's making that point that, hey, but it's not going to come knocking at your front door. They're not going to come and say, hey, we're taking all your firearms away. That's not how it's going to happen. It's small little cuts, death by 1,000 cuts over time. And that's the adversarial thinking part, right? That's where the consortium, right? Something like this on surface, very benign. Like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, developers should get paid, and we have open sats and you can donate and all kinds of stuff. And it looks very good. And there's been some different people opining on it that they're working on it and saying, hey, I know you're gonna be concerned. And that's wonderful. And it could be fine. It could be fine. When I started playing the game Monopoly, I wasn't cheating right away. But eventually the chicken's too tasty. The incentives are too strong over time. And then you get into a world where if I'm paying for these people, or if I'm donating to these causes, then of course I'm going to want a little say into what's going on here. This is just natural human behavior. So I'm not pointing to one person. We're not pointing to one person specifically and saying, hey, this is what's happening, because we don't know, but we can logically therefore assume over time that these things, the incentive structures, are there for shenanigans to happen, right? If you put a bunch of people in a room and no one's really checking what's going on to tabulate votes, I can therefore assume that there are shady things going on. So, yeah. So anyway, sorry you guys couldn't hear that. I'll put let me put the link in there, because it's a great, it's a really, really good video, 2 minutes long, obviously. And he's talking about this, a lot of the things we're going through in a way. And this is what, 10 years ago? But it doesn't come knocking at your front door. And that's my fear a lot of times, that you see it a lot in society when, again, I've been writing the book that I'm writing, updated version of Common Sense, Separating Money and State, and doing a lot of just studying of, again, going back into history and the last 400 plus years of the East India Company and the versions of that, and the wars and the Crown and central banking and all this, and then really seeing how it marries up with the American Revolution and how all these things were happening, and you see these things happening over time. It's fascinating, and it puts a different perspective, different light on it. But if you're not looking at some of those things, these things can seem very siloed and very like they're like, oh, hey, this is a great idea. It's great to pay the developers. Yeah, it is, of course. It absolutely is. We want people working on Bitcoin. We have to be very diligent, right? You have to be very diligent. And this goes back to tending the garden, weeding the garden. This is where it goes back to the free market. I think there's a lot of people, I include myself into this, where we just think that the fee market or the free market will just take care of things. But again, that then assumes that there's not some bigger malignant actor that's going to come in and beat you over the head. If we say like, hey, it's just anarchy, there's no rules, then, grandma's going to be getting called by 10,000 call centers and it's just free for all. Like, sorry, grandma, you got to figure that out. Right. That's where I have fights with my anarchist buddies of, again, the American founders, they talked about this. You have to have a moral, just, religious people in order for the American experiment to work. It doesn't work if you just say, okay, I'm planting all my stuff and then the weeds just grow up everywhere. There's the saying of the farmer, and he gets this new farm, and or a little story, I guess, not a saying, but he gets this whole farm, and it's just so good. He gets his farm and he plants all the stuff and he cleans everything out and, does everything. And it's just beautiful. Right. And he comes down the road and someone comes down the road looking at his stuff. This preacher comes down the road looking at the farmer. And he's like, oh boy, farmer. He's like, this is amazing thing. She shows him around the farm. He's like, this is amazing. Like your garden, the farm, everything's just beautiful. God's really blessed you. God has just surely blessed you. And he's just like, yeah, I did a lot of work to it. There was a lot of stuff that went into it. And he's like, oh, I bet. He's like, I bet there was a lot of work, but God he really is looking down on you. He's really shining down on you. He's really blessed this land. And so the farmer's getting agitated. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it was a lot though. I mean, like I did do a lot, and he's like, yeah, I just, God's really, his light shining down. And he's just like, hey, he's like, look, you should have seen it when, it was left to God, his own doing. He's like, it was a disaster, right? He takes over this land. It was unkempt, or it was just raw land, and he comes and does all this stuff. So it's just a little funny joke about the world we're in, right? And in protecting the world that you're in, being diligent. And this is, again, it's a talk about everything overall. And it's about politics. It's about all the things. Being someone who's 39 years old, I've been in politics since I was a little kid. Early as I can remember is for sure the 2000 election, the Bush-Gore hanging chads. And the thing that I've noticed over time is that when people, when you have common sense policy, we'll say, which, the Republican Party used to like say they were that, like fiscal conservative in that side, used to have, maybe the left was more civil rights. They tried to be more civil, and Republicans tried to do more top down, kind of money flow type of stuff. And you have this world where like the Republicans they would get a win, and then most people would go away. They would just kind of walk away after that. And I've said it here many times too. The libertarian side tends to just completely check out and black pilled and just turn everything off and say, I'm out, Field of Dreams it. They walk back into the cornfield right here and they just disappear. And then they're out of the fight and they just forfeit. And that's the thing with Bitcoin and all these different protocols and systems, that evil, no matter what it is, every side thinks they're good though. It's good versus good, as Scott Adams said. Everyone thinks they're on the right side of history. Everyone thinks they're good. Cognitive dissonance can affect all of us at any time. And the first part of combating it is just understanding that, hey, we're all susceptible to it. And so we all think we're on the good side, but the other side, when you get a win, it's just natural behavior for those humans to kind of just like walk away. And then that's what the opponent is waiting for. The opponent is then waiting. It's like, okay, cool. Now they're gone. They think they won. Now we're here. We're back. And we work in the shadows. We work in the dark. We work. And that's just a story of life. So I don't know how to cure that. I don't think there is a cure. It's just human nature. So it's just a cycle we continue to be in over time. And something I've noticed now for 26 years, that you have this world where, you think like, okay, cool, big victory, yay. And then you go away, go back to your life and go try to produce for society, and you turn around and things are 10 times worse. So anyway, VD Berg, thank you. Yes. The book it'll be good. It'll be short pamphlet separating money and state. I don't think I will mention Bitcoin in it really. If I do, it'll probably be at the end or something like that, kind of like Jeff Booth did. And we'll be talking about separating money and state and the next version of that, the next iteration 250 years later. So we're knocking things down. And I think that's another important thing to remember, that whether it's a Clarity Act or whether what's going on with strategy or the BIP-110 and civil wars and all these different things, the fight never ends, I guess, is more of the story, right? It never stops. No matter what activates, like someone said here earlier, it doesn't end. Like none of these things end. The fight, Bitcoin will still be attacked no matter what version is running. America, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all these things will continue to be attacked over and over and over again. So that, I think, is something that's very hard. I've seen that as well. It's a very hard thing to grasp and grapple with. I know like David Goggins always talks about this and has talked about that for many times. He's always like, where's the next finish line? Where's the next finish line? Where's the next finish line? And that's very tiring for many people. And that's why there's only a small irate minority usually that do things and that are here, that are in this chat right now. Some people already left earlier, right? The battle and being in the mud and being in the foxhole in the trenches, it's not for everyone. It's not for most people. This is why most people sit on the couch and they don't do the thing, right? This is why most people are just watching from the sidelines. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Some people watch from the sideline. Most people don't even have no idea what's going on at all. Most people are completely out in left field. And then you have a lot of people just watching from the sidelines. And then you have some people in the arena. So that is where just the arc of history, but what my moral of my whole story over there, though, was that directionally we're going the right way, guys. We're going up and to the right when it comes to anything in terms of freedom, liberty, sovereignty, money, technology, the things that we do have. When you think of nuclear, AI, also all these different things that we have, the average person now in the West, we'll say in America, where I'm at, just speaking for here, is living like a king from 100 years ago, 200, 500 years ago, just living like absolute kings. And so I think that's the grand arc of history as well, is you have to be diligent, but you have to stay in the fight and be there. Focus on what you can control, obviously. Focus on the people right around you and your spouse, your significant other, making the choices, becoming the best version of yourself, bettering your mind every single day, bettering your body, eating right, sleeping right, all these different things. Just sleep. That's the thing I'm constantly trying to work on, right? Hockey took a toll on me in that regard. So trying to do these things to really better ourselves and make ourselves that best version so we can live, be an example for our children, for our spouse, for the people around us, and to produce more for society than we take, and saving Bitcoin, saving money that it can't be stolen from you. And so no matter what activates in the coming weeks, the fight still continues. Even if Bitcoin goes away tomorrow, like completely gone, Bitcoin doesn't even exist, the fight still continues. And the fight's always there. And it's good versus evil. It's a spiritual battle. And that's where I think sometimes we get a little bit too myopic and we get a little bit we identify too much as this. And really at the end of the day, we have to not make our sanity based on that. So that's this channel. I mean, the interviews that I've done here over the years, this channel and any content we've done on it over time, the new channel that we're building, that will be coming here in hopefully the next week or two. We'll probably get the first videos out. It's going to be incorporating all this. I mean, the new channel that we're doing is like a talking head channel. Some really good Bitcoin talking head channels out there. Joe Consortes, one of my friends, great person. He has a great talking head channel that he just obviously started somewhat recently and it's just been doing wonderful, but it's more numbers based and things like that. That's what Joe's very good at, charts and all that. There's some others, and for some reason I'm forgetting the others out there. Luke Mikic, another one of my buddies, a great person, has another good channel. Those are a little more current news or current events. Mine's going to be focused on more of what we've been talking about today, thinking high level, thinking 30,000 feet, thinking 100,000 feet. I even thought of naming the channel 100,000 feet or 30,000 feet or something like that, or hockey stick economics or something of that nature. But bringing together the last 400 years, bringing together, faith, the pillar of society and humanity, being built in God's image, and then right there under that, obviously the money and organizing and orienting the incentive structure of society and how that's been manipulated over time. And so the British Crown, central banking, all over time, all the way up into now. So bringing all these things together, and how do you talk about it? How do you, like we said with Elizabeth Warren, with this, clown world stuff from earlier, how do you bring about a world so that way you can, talk like an Elizabeth Warren in the sense of how do you appeal to people's emotions? How do you, the things that people bitch about at the dinner table, you hear your friends, your family, the things you think about, the things that keep you up at night about, how do we as Bitcoiners and sound money, liberty, freedom advocates, how do you espouse that? How do you talk about that to other human beings? Because you're selling. It's a sales job that we're in. It's being the example of living a certain way so you can enjoy the fruits of your labor and be what you need to be to actually lead the only people you have control over, which is, again, your own actions. Really, the only thing you have control over at the end of the day, and how you're acting. But then your spouse and then your children. Those are the things that you have somewhat control over, obviously, and then everything else you have no control over, right? You can't control what Donald Trump's going to do, what the rest of your family is going to do, what your friends are going to do. That to me is a big thing going forward, because if again, it's a game theory of, if one person starts doing that, right? If we all start doing that, or 1% starts doing that, the ripple effect on society that can have, getting involved, being active in things in your community, that ripple effect is massive. No, everyone thinks that, hey, one person can't change things, but they can. And it just starts one. It takes one person to start that, and that's the ripple effect. But if we're all constantly Spider-Man memeing, looking around at each other and saying, well, I'm not going to start, I'm going to be selfish and not do what I know I need to do, which, by the way, causes anxiety and stress in our life. We know that most anxiety and stress comes from not doing the things that we know we need to do, because they're not going to do it. I'm not going to run my privacy stack or my node setup. I'm not going to learn the nodes, why, start nines and the umbrals. I'm not going to, my node or whatever, like all the different implementations, go build your own. If I'm not going to learn that and learn the importance of it and actually be sovereign and get to true FU money, then I really don't have any economic power. I don't have that, because none of us are going to have fiat FU money. We're going to have true FU money, which is a node, self-custody, and the government not being able to tell you what to do. Your employer not being able to tell you what to do. You make the rules at the end of the day. Those who have the Bitcoin in self-custody running their node make the rules. So that's the only thing I would change from Max Kaiser a few years ago when he was talking to Rand, as he's screaming and yelling, is he who has the Bitcoin makes rules. I would just add that he who has the Bitcoin in self-custody running their own node, makes the rules. That's the true FU money. That's when you become ungovernable. And that's when things start to change. And I think that's, again, where we talk about this book, Common Sense, Separating Money and State. You have a world where we get to a saturation point of, I don't even know, a small irate minority, a couple % of people, maybe max, maybe 1%, maybe it's a half of 1%, maybe it's a couple 100,000 people, maybe it's 500,000, maybe it's 1 million people in the world that are ungovernable, and that tips the scales. There's how many, a couple thousand maybe leaders in the world at high levels, but your local level, I mean, I don't know how many do you think there are? And there's 8 billion people. Again, the numbers are there, but the psyops, the mind washing, we'll say, makes you believe that you're alone, makes you believe that you don't think the same as another billion people out there. That's the psyop. That's the operation that's being done on everyone, to not believe what you're seeing with your eyes, being gaslit into oblivion. So how do you talk like Elizabeth Warren and become an emotional seller, right? What is sales? It's selling with emotion and then justifying with logic later. But what do a lot of Bitcoiners do? We come with logic first. Soap's here. What up, Soap Miner? Go get some of Soap's. Amazing stuff, by the way. Been using it for what now, a year? Soap? I don't even know how long. Amazing stuff. But we try to sell with logic. It's like the whole Jordan Belfort is selling me this pen thing, right? And the average person says, well, the pen's great. It's a gel pen. It's got a great grip on it. And look at this. It even has an eraser. You can erase your pen, right? Like, we try to sell the features of the pen instead of the benefits. So we try to sell the 21 million and the this and that. But instead of saying, well, hey, is your bank freezing you out? No, it's not. Oh, okay. Well, does life seem to be getting really expensive for you? Are you sick of that? Is it weird that you can't afford things now? You can't afford a house? Like, get into the benefits of Bitcoin. That's the difference, right? Because no one cares about the features. Truly, they care what it can get them and what it can give them. That's the difference. So this is where, again, it comes back to patience. These things are going to happen over time. And like we said earlier, there's no amount of angle of debate, a new subject, a new country that comes in. There's nothing that's going to get all of a sudden to the perfect amount of people that have FU money that a small irate minority. It's people doing their own work inside their head in here and actually setting up their stack and getting their stuff ready for the things that are happening moving forward. That's the point, because then people will be ready. Then the mindset of society starts turning. You can't force it. And this is where you can't round peg square hole it, right? That's the difference. There's no amount of financial engineering and shenanigans that are going to change that. And I think we're on a collision course to bottom up, right? The real change has to come from bottom up. The only, I think, revolution ever that's really had a top down was the United States. Was a once in humanity, top down. The people at the top are changing things. It's never been done before that I know of, and I don't think it's going to happen after. But I think it's going to be, Bitcoin's going to be a version of top down and bottom up. I do believe you're going to have people from the top, because you're going to have energy, the AI, mining centers, nuclear energy. You have all these. You're going to have that world of top-down power that sees the essence of Bitcoin and what it is, the benefits of Bitcoin and some of the features. They are going to adopt Bitcoin because they have to, and then you're going to have bottom up over time. It's as more people get rug pulled, as there are more Canadian trucker events, as there are more dumb things happen. Pain mixed with education over time. And Thomas Paine, as we've said here many times, in introduction of Common Sense, says in there, when a thing happens for so long, like we said earlier about not tending your garden, about not following a protocol, permissionless and censorship resistant doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want. Because you could have the worst actors in the world dumping anything on the chain and saying, well, the fee market, that's going to take care of it. Unless there's actual rules and people, nodes justify and say, hey, these are the rules. You have to follow our rules to be in our country. If you say, hey, there's no locks on my doors at night, and then people just keep coming and partying every single night, or they keep coming into your country, they're not really following the rules at that point. That's neutrality with nothing. That's just saying, hey, I don't care what happens, just free for all. And so Bitcoin is not neutrality. It's a protocol. It's a rules-based protocol saying, hey, here's what 21 million. That's part of the protocol. That's like, hey, here it is. We have to follow this rule set. So again, it's thinking adversarially, but it's also thinking 20 years from now, 50 years from now. It's not about thinking now. And that's what there seems to be a lot of mixing of feelings, because we are thinking now, right? We're hurting. It's a bear market. We're doing things for short term instead of long term. Anytime I've done anything in business or seen anything in business that's done short term has never turned out well. Never. The real estate business I have for 10 years, investing in business, raising money, it's always been detrimental to the long term. It's a short term fix. Maybe you need a shot in the arm. Maybe you need something because it's a short term thing, but it never ends up well. So not saying it can't, but I've never seen it end up well. And it's usually not the best way to, on average, run your life, run your business, etc. So I had something else I was thinking of, but I don't know what I was going to say now. What is good, everybody? Kachuk, VDberg. So good to see everybody. Christopher. Yeah, that was the video. I shared the link there, guys, of Andreas, by the way. So for those of you who are in there, we were talking about this video that I put the link in there. So go watch this. I was just talking about you have to be careful. He was talking about the fork. This is such a great video of him talking about the fork, forking off like CIA coin or some Wall Street coin or whatever. But that's inferring that it's going to be super obvious, right? So the British coming and Paul Revere running around saying, hey, the British are coming, or battle at Lexington Green, right? When they're coming and then they're at the North Bridge. That's obvious. That's very obvious. This is why I was going back to central banking, the money itself. And this is why I was saying in the beginning, I'm disappointed with Bitcoiners. A lot of people just the adversarial thinking and thinking 20 years down the line, 50 years, 100 years down the line, because the easiest day is now, right? As the SEALs say in BUDS, in basic underwater demolition SEAL training, it's the only easy day was yesterday. And so the easiest day to do something is now. Tomorrow it's harder. And then tomorrow it's harder. And tomorrow it's harder. So that to me, I don't know why. Is this off? Oh, that's why. I don't know. I think my thing's shut off. Yeah, that's why you guys can hear it earlier. But the attack is, because being attacked all the time, but also it's not going to happen just punching you in the face. Like, it's easy seeing the British coming. That's easy. That's an easy decision to say, I'm not letting that happen. Or I shouldn't say it's easy, because there's only 70 men at Lexington Green. But it's a much more defined threat environment where what this is, and again, this is why the new channel that we're doing, what I'm writing about common sense and the new version of that, it's much more insidious, because the players up top have learned over time a much better, much more insidious, much more stealth way to incept your mind. It's all mind control. It's all perception management. Everything we do in life is perception management now. It's all done up here. Everything you see, the commercials, the programming, the songs, the wavelengths, right? All these different things are perception control. That is what they are. Going to school for homework itself, literally homework itself, that John Taylor Gatto wrote about 30, 40 years ago from the government school system, saying, yeah, it's homework itself is there to get you away from actual learning outside of school. It's a way to control you outside of school. So this is where we're having a very hard time, because so many people in society have grown up this way, being mind washed over time. So what Andreas is saying is that, hey, you can just fork this off when it's there, but it's not easy to see, though. It's not as easy as someone knocking on your door and saying, hey, we're taking your firearms, or hey, I'm forking off Bitcoin, so you know, what are you gonna do about it? Or BlackRock saying that, right? It shows up in little things like this over time. Like, hey, we're doing it. It starts out great, and maybe they mean well, but where does it end up 10, 20, 50, 100 years from now? That's the question. And that's where you have to stand on guard. You have to always be on guard. The spiritual battle, the church militant is the earth. And the evil spirits never go away. Let's just say that. They never cease. So let me see here. Twins. Yes, Chris. Twins. I don't think I've said anything on this channel yet, or really anywhere. I said it to a few people in back chats. You know, Bitcast crew, stuff like that, and the different people that I work with inside, you know, Bitcoin content itself. So, which is another thing we're going to talk about as well on the new channel. Demographics are destiny. The threats we have there, the manufacturing, what Trump is doing. Again, you can like Trump, love him, hate him, but what Scott Bessent, Vance, what they're all trying to do, which is increase production here to increase standard of living. That way they can actually inflate more and print more. Warsh, that was the other guy, right? All these things, that's the way out. Or it's either 1929 style depression, or as we know, they have to print. But how do you ease the printing? They're going to have to print, but how do you do it? Well, you reshore things over time. That's why the fight's not going to end. The great game, the British game of mind control, perception management over the last 150 years through the 3 intelligence agencies. You can probably think of who they are. There's one in the Middle East, there's an intelligence agency here, there's one in Britain, and they're all pretty connected. So that's the game we're playing, and they know how to play it very well. They're pretty good at it. And the guy who was in a jail cell, had an island somewhere, he was one cog in all that, right? He was, you know, those guys are up top, but he's one, you know, a big player in controlling all of that, right? My wife's uncle, they're Italian, and he always said that the business is, there's the BBB rule: bullshit, bribery, and blackmail. So in, you know, Italian culture, like the mafia and all that, and all business, people are just bullshitting and bullshitting and bullshitting. And if that doesn't work, you bribe them. And if the bribes don't work, then eventually you just blackmail them. And that's the control structure. That's how Epstein worked. That's how all these things work. That's how you get John Roberts to vote for Obamacare, go outside the scope of the judiciary. The Supreme Justice, the Supreme, wow, I can't even think of how to say it now. But the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, he went outside of his own scope. So you're saying that the best lawyer in the land doesn't even know how his own court works. In essence, he went outside the scope of the judiciary to change a law, to make Obamacare a tax, to make it okay to have it happen, right? Go socialize medicine. So, I mean, that's the clown world we're in. Then you have the birthright citizenship stuff that just happened, and Roberts going against that as well. I remember as a 22-year-old thinking, this guy must be blackmailed, and never having the thought in my life, and just like it didn't make sense. None of it made sense. He'd always kind of voted the other way. Then all of a sudden, one of the biggest decisions in American history, really, of changing the whole insurance, health insurance system, just went outside the scope of the court that he runs. That he's the highest court in the land. I mean, it makes no sense unless you understand the money flows, and unless you understand the incentives of where are these coming from. Where are the money incentives coming from? They're coming from BlackRock. They're coming from Coinbase. They're coming from, right? So again, doesn't mean that it's terrible. Doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just be vigilant. Watch it like a hawk. And we know that incentives control things. You can, talk is cheap. Incentives control everything. Where I'm getting my paycheck from. Look how many people. So this is where you have to be careful with the devs, the core devs or whoever it is, whoever the other devs are that might be getting the stuff. I've not been able to read this whole thing yet, right? So I would suggest reading it, doing your own research, verifying. But where someone's getting paid from, we saw how powerful it was during COVID. You have all kinds of people that because they were so dependent on their paycheck, they did things to their body that they would not have normally done. So I'll say it again. Because of the paycheck, being a slave to a paycheck, which Robert Kiyosaki, one of my biggest mentors, has said for a long time, right? If you're a slave to a paycheck and you're not buying assets, you're not buying Bitcoin, you're not outside the system year after year, providing more to society than you consume and saving a Bitcoin, you become a slave to a paycheck, do W-2 or 1099, whatever it is. And then now you are forced at the barrel of a gun to do maybe what you don't want to do. And that's why we say FU money is getting on the system, self-custodying Bitcoin, over time, running your node. That's true FU money. Because you can say, no, shut down, shut the F up and sit down. I'm not doing that. I'm going somewhere else. I'm not beholden to you, to a paycheck or whatever it is. That's the difference. But we, unfortunately, after the 2012 election, I realized very quickly, I mean, you just had the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street, two sides of the same coin, and the same guy got reelected. That right there, at the bottom of a recession, mind you, that right there, and again, you have Mitt Romney, who's a terrible candidate as well. But that right there was when I knew as a 23, 24, 25-year-old, whatever it was, we need more pain. We need a lot more pain. And unfortunately, I don't know if we're still even near that, but you have to have education mixed with that pain. And as we said earlier, I don't think I finished it with Thomas Paine and Common Sense from 1776, arguing against the separation of, or arguing against the crown for the separation of church and state, for the revolution, saying, hey, we've tried everything else. Can't do this anymore. But when bad things continue happening over time, it almost seems right. And that's what the perception management comes in. That's where the crown knows, the intelligence agency's apparatus knows that if I can just beat you over the head and gaslight you long enough, and these little drip, 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 like you won't notice. You'll just be boiled to death eventually over time. This is the AI panopticon or whatever, the digital panopticon. This is, well, they're smart meters. Well, it's a little phone tracking in your phone. Oh, don't read the terms and services. All these little things over time add up to eventually one day you look around and say, oh my gosh, I'm in an open air prison, or I'm in a real prison. So, and then Thomas Paine says, these things happen over time and you think they're right. Wrong things that keep happening, but they've happened for so long that you think they're right. And then he says, but the tumult subsides and time converts more than reason. And this goes back to the Liz Warren stuff. And again, we can, until we're blue in the face, we can talk about logic and 21 million and all that stuff, but the emotions are what sell people. And time, pain, mixed with that time. So, all right, let's get to some more of these. Audio's okay. I keep losing my spot. Let's see here. BIP-110 be like, I can fix Bitcoin, bugger off. I mean, everyone's got to do their homework. The best thing about what's going on is there's so many people that run nodes now. This is why this is so important. They're learning about nodes. They're running nodes. No matter what they're doing, if they're running an old version of Core, if they're running knots, BIP-110, whatever. I believe is knots. You guys might be able to correct me. Is BIP-110 the only version now of Core? That might be the updated. That might be the only version now. But you could be running an old version of Core or whatever, right? I know many people who are running core version, 28, 29. Like, I know there's a lot of people. I mean, you can go look at Clark Moody's dashboard, obviously. But my moral of the story is that people are getting educated, and these things need to happen. And the bear markets are when these things happen. That's the beauty of it. These things need to happen. You look at what happened in 2017. All of a sudden, the fork, and people act like it's the end of the world. But again, people are acting like it's the end of the world. And that's where the suit coiners, it's a little interesting because they're acting, I just saw Dylan LeClaire. We talked about Dylan LeClaire a lot lately. And I've used him as a placeholder of like, hey, where's Dylan memeing people to death? And here he is saying, I am not doing BIP-110. Again, unfortunately, the closer you are to the fiat printers, naturally, it's going to be harder to see what's going on around you, right? Because your livelihood, again, is on the fiat printer. So just by proximity, you are going to have a harder time seeing things. And the fog of war is much heavier. When you're on the Titanic, it's harder to see that it's going down until you get off the life raft again and then say, oh my gosh. And so again, it's not that someone's bad. Dylan's not a bad person. These people, it's not, are there some bad actors in the world? Of course. But could evil incept any of us at any time? Yes, we're all cracked vessels. So that's why Bitstein's piece, which I saw someone said earlier, everyone's a scammer, is so prescient. It's still to this day, 15 years later, 13, whatever it is, it's so prescient still. So if you haven't read Everyone's a Scammer by Bitstein, go read it. It's more true now than ever. And so you have to check yourself at the end of the day. And like we said, Michael Saylor came to Bitcoin because of the node runners, because of the plebs, because of the toxicity, because people kept educating people over time online, memeing people to death. Dylan LeClaire was memeing people to death and being toxic and being one of the 70 sitting on Lexington Green saying, you're not doing this. You're not taking my stuff. Oh, Sharon. So that's what's interesting to me at the end of the day is seeing that. And it's tough. Each side, right? Everyone can say almost the same thing to each side. But that's what's the beautiful part. And I was going to say earlier, 2017, when you had the forking then, and you had the block size wars, things took off after that, right? You had these things happen in the bear market, things take off. I think Bitcoin, did it 10x in 2017 from when they forked off in August and then to the end of the year? Wasn't it? Was that 1,000 when they forked? I can't remember now. Let's go back and look at that. I didn't know what Warren believes. She is a weird swamp creature, Elizabeth Warren. I really, she's just been captured. But again, this is what we've been talking about with the fiat currency printer. The closer you are to it, the harder it is to see what's going on. And it's not nefarious. I gotta look up. It's a great thing that I was sent here. All right, well, I'll look up this. BIP-110 is the right way forward for Bitcoin, in my opinion. Web dev newbie said, giving way too much power to a guy like Lou Dasher Jr. I don't think so. Let me see here. I gotta find this really quick. All right, so let's see here. So the incentives are the root and why morality is inherent in all economic activity. So if you ever read Neil Flesher's book, Modern Chains, is a phenomenal book. Neil could even be in here right now. Sometimes he pops in here, but he's an awesome guy. And he wrote Modern Chains. And when he signed it for me, he actually put in there, it's one of his things he talked about. It's what the book is about overall. But it's really cool because he signed it that way too, to put ethics before economics. And so, again, this is where I talk about the faith part of things, because if you don't have a world that can't uphold its own integrity, uphold its own rules, then what does it matter? Again, this is why I bring up so much of the founding fathers and the history of America. You have to have a moral, just, religious people in order to uphold the American experiment. It falls flat on its face if no one's going to. We have so many immigration rules. We have so many rules, court rules and laws and all this. But if we don't uphold the rules, what does it matter? You don't have anything. You don't have a country. If you're just gonna say, hey, we have these things, we have these abstract rules here, but no one follows them, then what does it matter at the end of the day? All right, I gotta find this other. And so he was sending me some stuff. He's a wonderful thinker. I'm trying to find this one thing though that he was saying. Yeah, so Neil had said something really interesting. He said each, and this is why I love Neil, because he's just a great thinker and he's such a good person too, and just humble and kind person. He said that again, most people are not doing things maliciously or evil or something like that, right? But each is following their compass. And I think those closer to fiat, or the fiat currency printer, right, sometimes underestimate the fiat magnet messing with their reading. So I guess I got to read you some of this because he gave me some back chat thoughts. But someone put something in here. I got to. Gerard sent 1,000 gems. I don't even know what that is. What is that? Goat trophy. By the way, the YouTube stuff, the YouTube membership stuff, if you guys want to, if you guys ever feel like it, I started throwing the QR code up there for sats, value for value economy. We'll probably go that route. I like what Jor does when I go on 88 Sats radio with him. He does that instead. So probably, I don't know, move more toward that model. Just, again, trying to live what we're preaching here, I guess, right? At the end of the day. So trying to do that more. So I appreciate that if you are so inclined. If not, no big deal. All right, so he said incentives are the why. I wrote a section on this because he's writing a new book as well. Because I was talking about Adam Smith and John Locke and actually them potentially having a lot of great thinking. Obviously, there was the Enlightenment thinking and all this, but also potentially being propagandists for the East India Company and really creating this fake prison of communism versus capitalism. And this is another thing that I think that we're going to enter into, which is this new world of, I don't know, Bitcoinism. So maybe it's voluntarism, anarchy, capitalism, something. It's going to be some type of combination, the anarcho-capitalism. Like we're going to be in some new structure going forward, built on sound money. Because just capitalism, communism, or capitalism, socialism, like, right, that's a fake prison of two ideas. It's not just capitalism, because capitalism is just straight free market. Hey, we're just going to let the market do anything it wants. And I mean, maybe 1,000 years from now, or maybe someday off in the future, we're at that place where it's just the free market. It was just, hey, we got the Bitcoin network running, the protocol, just organizing society. I mean, maybe we get there. I hold that open to absolutely could be something that does happen for sure. I just think that humans always are going to, there's always going to be humans that want to print their own currency and take power from people and control them. And there's always going to be someone who's got a great idea. You look at all the kings of the past and all these things that continue to happen. There's always going to be people that want to gain control and power somehow and are good at doing it, are good at talking, or they're Donald Trump, they're Elon Musk, they're whoever, and they're very good at convincing other people. They're the Elizabeth Warrens who can make a plea to your emotions and get you, light your brain on fire and get you to do things in a herd mentality. This is a lot of stuff I've been reading lately, again, that I've read for a while ago, but just, again, coming back to because of the book that I'm writing, right? So going through this herd thinking, the herd mentality, and you look at the Gramsci, some of the communist thinkers, and Edward Bernays, and they talked about, again, humans are, hey, they're just cattle in herd thinking, and they just go around and we can control them by what we're telling them, in essence, right? So talking about this invisible hand of economics, and it says understanding invisible hand is a metaphor for supply and demand, the what of economics. Incentives are the why that guides the hand. Incentives are direction. And where the immoral people thing comes into play is what's the north in the compass. In our next book, Neil says, and again, hopefully, Neil, if you see this, you're okay with me talking about this a little bit. In our next book, we talk about it as the difference between making and taking, which I love. Because what have we been talking about here a lot? Makers versus takers. That's the economy. That is where we're living in now going forward. Makers versus takers economy. It's the Bitcoiners, Bitcoinism. So all those different capitalism, volunteerism, all these things that we'll just kind of pitch it as for now versus communism. Can those that are making in the world and producing in the world, the Bitcoin and freedom people, can those people outproduce those that are taking and trying to redistribute everyone else's stuff? What's the north in the compass? In our next book, we talk about the difference between making and taking. A system is either set up to reward one behavior or the other, over the other. Are you creating real value in the world, adding to the total value in the world, or simply redistributing what was already created, extracting from the other? So I love it because the next book that they have that he's writing is exactly what we've been talking about a lot here on this show. What we've been saying, what again, like it or not, that's what Scott Bessent has been saying, and Warsh and all these people have been saying, and JD Vance. They've pinpointed the problem. They are not going to be the people to see it all the way through. And that's where it's on all of us to take the mantle, take the unearthing, the exposing of the system, of the British Crown, of the central banking, of the intelligence apparatuses, of this whole structure that's been orienting people's life, which, by the way, this is why it's so hard to understand Bitcoin, understand the money is broken, and why Bitcoin breaks people's minds. Because what happens when you tell someone these things or guide them to it or show them, and they see it, and they get on that precipice of the door there, and they're knocking on that thing, and then they open the door, you open the door for them, they then have to admit to themselves that most of their life has been a lie. Correct? They realize, oh my gosh, if what he or she is saying to me right now is true, then everything I've been doing was built on a lie. It was built on a faulty premise. It was built on incentive structure that could have been completely different. I would have made different choices had I known these things to be true. That is subconsciously what blocks most human beings. It's not a conscious thing. It's subconscious. This is something that lies in there in your paradigm that blocks you, that tries to protect you from losing your mind. And if you cannot humble yourself to that, you're going to have a lot of problems going forward. You're living in the blue-pilled world, the matrix world of the blue pill of, you know what? I'm going back to sleep. I don't care. I'm not doing this anymore. And the red pill crowd, which leads to the orange pill, says, I want the truth. I don't care what the hell happens. Come hell or high water, I'm going to figure it out, and I want the damn truth. Give it to me now. Okay, so are you creating real value in the world, adding to the world, or redistributing? Okay, as long as fiat is printed, the incentive structure is set to take, and the battle between fiat and Bitcoin is the battle of making and taking, the soul of a people. Whether it's Munger, show me the incentives, and I'll show you the outcome, John Nash, or Satoshi, the old supply and demand free market idea is correct insofar as it's like the stem of the plant. But incentives dig a level below the flowers and leaves and get to the root. The incentives are the root, and why morality is inherent in all economic activity. And this is what a lot of people just either don't want to admit or they gloss over. Because we're not taught in school. Let's be real. Ethics before economics is a metaphysical or ontological hierarchy of primacy. We are the free market insofar as we aren't literally the CCP. And in reality, the free market can absolutely head true south instead of north. And so I think that's where, and he says, Bitcoin gives us a real way to measure north and guide our actions. So, you know, even though that's what he says, each is following their compass. So whether it's a suit coiner, a treasury company, a country, right? How is Bitcoin, or how is the US doing right now, right? They're taking people's Bitcoin, they're you know, trying to take other people's Bitcoin, stuff like that. A pleb is trying to produce more than they can consume, and he's trying to self-custody it, run a node, stuff like that. Each is following their compass, which is not inherently evil. It's just the incentive structure. It's just the root of that stem of the whole plant itself. So they're following each of their own compasses. And I think those closer to fiat sometimes underestimate the fiat magnet messing with their reading. Am I going north or am I going south? And this is where I go back to the Dylan LeClaire's. You know, God love Dylan. I've spent time with Dylan, you know, a number of years ago. Good kid, great kid. And, you know, a Saylor, stuff like that. It's not that they're bad people or they're evil. or they think they're even doing evil things. It's sometimes your compass, your land navigation, as any of my military boys and girls out there, your land nav, your compass can get messed up. And that's what can be very tough at times. The incentive structures can, because we're rationalizing human beings, we can rationalize anything. I mean, look what happened in the 30s in Germany, right? We can rationalize a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, that's just the good and bad of human beings. I should say, unfortunately and unfortunately, we can rationalize a lot of behaviors, a lot of things our families do and friends do. And that's the way we're built. So that's why just being on guard, I think, is so critically important. Especially with the rising hardware cost, the cost of running a full node needs to be considered in order to keep Bitcoin decentralized. So I agree, newbie, web dev. This is web dev newbie. This is my biggest threat vector over time. This is the thing that I care about the most. It's, to me, the biggest threat vector. This is so we never become Ethereum or I can't remember what the that way you don't have to use Amazon Web Services or some centralized server or platform. I forget what Ethereum uses now. What is it? Joe Lubin or whatever he created? I think, who was one of the founders of Ethereum, I believe. I'm trying to harken back to a decade ago of what these guys were doing and seeing these guys in the spotlight more. But running their centralized server farms, and in order to, that's how you do it. Or you have XRP running. You got to be a certified node validator or whatever it is. Ethereum, you got to centralized servers because things cost so much. That's what makes Bitcoin beautiful, is that the average person now and hopefully into the future can run a node and actually have decentralization, actually have a decentralized system that makes it whack-a-mole, that makes it where it is a commodity. It is something that is dispersed everywhere, and there's no one jurisdiction that can have say over it, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think arguing over BIP-110 is useful right now. Let's just, we were saying this earlier, VD Berg. So he said, do your own research. If you're taking Luke Dash Jr.'s word for it, if you're taking Michael Saylor's word for it, I mean, if you're taking my word for it, I would suggest not doing that. I would suggest going and doing your own homework, doing your own research. A lot of people are getting emotional, and when we know emotion goes up, intelligence goes down, and so we have to be very careful. And that's what the media does. This is why we don't have a lot of good debates out there, because the media and everything, the fever pitch we get to, it drives down the intelligence. So now we can't have good debate. We can't actually talk about things, unfortunately. And it's very important stuff, obviously. But again, this is where you have to realize there's more to life. We're a speck of dust in the universe. We have to realize there's more to life than Bitcoin. There's more to life. There's more to, life itself is more important than anything. And so that's where we have to realize that not letting our identity, like I played hockey for 20 years. I was a professional hockey player. My identity is not as a hockey player. It's a human being. It's God's creation. That's my identity. And being an instrument for him, that's my identity. And then being a husband, a father, a spouse, son, brother, stuff like that. Like that's your identity. It's not, oh, hey, I'm a communist, I'm a capitalist, I'm a Bitcoiner or something like that. Those are things that you could be, and things you could work on and educate and help and love, but though in doing, in your passions, et cetera, et cetera. But when we find ourselves, in that world, that's where we start to make rash decisions. Even if you have a lot of your wealth, which I know many of us do, right? You have a lot of your wealth tied up into it. The sun will always rise tomorrow at the end of the day. And I think that's where we have to have perspective just in general. And the sun will rise. We will fight another way. We will fight for freedom in any way possible. And I think Bitcoin is the best way to do it right now. In the, I don't want to say easiest, because it's not easiest, but it's the most peaceful way. I hate to say that right now, I guess, but it's the most peaceful way for sure. And so that's what makes it important. Fair point, Berg. Would you rather live in a world where you lose purchasing power with cartels, or you gain purchasing power with cartels? That's a good one, Kachuk. That's a good one. Oh, like we said earlier, I think that goes back to, you're going to have top down and bottom up adoption of Bitcoin. It's going to come from both angles. It's not going to be one or the other. It's not going to be just bottom up, because the corporations, countries, people realize they need Bitcoin and they should have Bitcoin. But it's also not going to just be top down. You can't have, again, Michael Saylor says jump. Not everyone says how high. If Donald Trump says, hey, I like Bitcoin, I'm going to be a Bitcoin president, most people, again, we didn't have crazy adoption because of that. You can't have some random person just come in, no matter how much influence they have. Charlie Munger says rat poison. He's one of the greatest investors in the world. There's still millions of people that own Bitcoin, right? So it has to be patience, pain mixed with education and time over long periods of time. That's the formula. Pain times education over long periods of time equals Bitcoin adoption and success. Hyper Bitcoinization. It means better layer 2s, 3s, 4s, not fixing the Lightning Network, but just strengthening the Lightning Network, the Fediments, self-custody, making things easier, the user interfaces, more products and services in Bitcoin. All these things come over time. This is something we said earlier too. It's a world where you're going to have an amount of Bitcoiners, enough Bitcoiners with enough amount of wealth over the next 5 or 10 years that are going to produce an explosion of good things in Bitcoin and on Bitcoin in the future. The people of El Salvador are kind of on a Bitcoin standard with cartels gone. Yeah, no, they for sure are. They definitely are. But again, this goes to show again, the president coming in, whether he's doing things for the Constitution or with the Constitution or aligned with it or not. If you go in and just jail a bunch of presumed criminals or cartel, whatever it is, look how fast you can clean things up. And I think this is what the British Crown again is trying to get people away from. The City of London, which we haven't mentioned, the City of London, right? The City of London, aka the Crown, they don't want you to know that you can just clean things up right away. They want you in managed decline. Remember that word, that phrase, managed decline. That's what the World Economic Forum was about. That's what the Club of Rome, the Malthusians, and on and on. All these things, the UN, all this is a managed decline. How do we throw a bunch of the Jews into Israel in 1948, the Balfour Declaration, and create a bunch of dissension in the Middle East? By the way, the Brits had 3 agreements with Egypt, Israel, and then I don't know if it was Palestine or Lebanon or whatever. They had 3 different agreements with people in the Middle East that they couldn't, you couldn't have all of them actually come to fruition. So people just think of the Balfour Declaration and people say, it's the Jews. But they don't even know about the other 2 agreements, Sykes-Picot, and I forget the other one, that they can't, it was just there to create division and chaos. They were just basically laughing with each person, entity, and signing and say, hey, here, we're going to shove a bunch of people here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, knowing full well they can't do all of it. And then they just created mass division. And that was the whole point, is to create and bottleneck the Middle East. You have the Suez Crisis, and we have endless wars in the Middle East. That was the whole point. It was to create distraction. And again, this is where they said that the Roman Colosseum is easy to see. It's still hard for people to kind of realize what was going on, but now the intelligence apparatuses have devised a better way of the death by 1,000 cuts and getting people distracted in the Colosseum and not seeing and get emotional and not see what's actually going on in the world, which is the destruction of the money, which is the destruction of the family, destruction of demographics, and then destruction of the money, which they all kind of go together, right? As we know. But that's the real thing. They don't want human beings on the planet. These are in their own words, right? We're useless eaters, we're cattle, we can be herded. That's the whole point. So if you do it with, we've got biolabs, or we've got wars going on, good, perfect. Get rid of a few people, that's great, and causes distraction so people can't really see what's going on. This is the plan. This is what the new channel, by the way, will be talking about. We'll be talking about all of these things, going 10, 15, 20, 25-minute videos on all these topics and bringing all these topics together, a broad picture, 100,000-foot view of how all these topics work. Because that to me is what's just not talked about at all. You don't see it talked about in Bitcoin, which I'm very surprised about. You don't see it obviously really anywhere else. You don't see it in politics. You don't see it in giving this broad picture of what's actually happening. Because in politics, you have the administration right now is talking about the British Crown. Well, they're not saying that necessarily. They're making all the moves, but they're missing the money part, right? Then you have Bitcoiners talking about, well, it's the Jews over here, and then it's the money and this, but then they're missing some of the politics stuff, and they're missing some of the history stuff. And so you have each section of society is talking, and there's people on the left that are saying, hey, free Palestine. And there's a reason the Palestinian, the people are pissed, because they had people thrown in there in 1948. And it's like every side has like a right thing or two about it. But when you when you only look at 1 or 2 of the puzzle pieces, it becomes very tough to see what's actually going on. Then it just causes more division. Bitcoin solves a lot of things. I don't think you can solve drugs, though. Well, here you go. Here you go, Kachuk. That's another one of the, if you don't understand trafficking, then you're not going to understand the world. Let's just say that. Every form of trafficking you can think of, that's it. So unless you understand good versus evil, spiritual battle, and you understand trafficking, then you're not going to understand really anything. That's the East India Company itself. It's just a trafficking protocol. That's the world. That is the world. So I love that you said that, because that's the whole game. That's the whole game, is how can we traffic. And VD Berg said, no, not in that way, but Bitcoin can make a 9-to-5 job way less grinding for the average man, which could indirectly affect addiction. Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be, like you guys said, more purchasing power, more wealth over time is going to cost. And that's why we have managed decline. That's why I'm saying that managed decline is huge, because it causes more dissension. It causes people to not really see what's going on, and it causes more addiction, more suicide, more bad things happening, more family decline, more destruction, more chaos. That is the point at the end of the day. So possibly it's one of the many reasons, but that's one out of many reasons too why drugs. True. The 70 Patriots. Yep. I'm not even American, but I deeply admire the American Revolution. Yes. As do I. As do I, VD. Can you share the link of the video in the chat? Yep. So Andreas was definitely way before his time. Sucks that he was in Ethereum. You are right about that, sadly. Fun fact. Yeah, and here's the I don't know if I can start. I don't know if, does that pin it? I don't know why I can't pin this. Anyway, there's the 2-minute video here we were showing with Andreas. So this video. So you guys can go back and watch that. That's one pinned in the starred or on the screen right now. So go watch that. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So that was the one where he's talking about this. And again, it's tough because, like we said earlier, the American Revolution was easier to see. The British were coming. Physical, easy. Now it's managed decline. It's perception management. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Very, very, very hard to see. Very hard to detect. It starts as a $15 million consortium, right? And it ends up 50 years later as Good Old Boys Club, as the UN, as Council on Foreign Relations, as the Club of Rome, right? Like, again, not saying it will, but it just, I think the thing that's concerning to me is that there's seemingly a lot of Bitcoiners that have just really lost the adversarial thinking. And so this is new. You can't say this is good or bad yet, necessarily, or what the result is, but things we've now seen over the last 17 years, you can see how things are kind of turning into other things, I guess, if you will. I'm not sure the best way to say that, but all right, let's see here. Looking forward to the book. Yes. I'm not sure what to call it. I'm not gonna lie. The thing that's kind of kept me back is, one, should I put Bitcoin in it? Should I, I want it to be about separating money and state, and I want to lead horses to water. Don't want to make people drink, or I can't make people drink. No, none of us can. And then also what to call it. Should it be called common sense? Something different? That's something I've struggled with. So any ideas, send them my way. Good afternoon, Letha. How are you? Very good to see you. Great to have some women in the chat, that's for sure. So, Brandon, what is your take on the consortium? Eric Casey said it was good for Bitcoin, but can't tell if it was sarcasm. Yeah, I was actually surprised he said that, to be totally honest. Really surprising take from someone who I thought would absolutely, if there was like 3 people, you would say, hey, who would not be for this? It would actually be Eric Casey. Yeah, I don't know. So I think I kind of answered it, VD Berg, just in general, the consortium. It's, again, from right now, having good intentions, it looks okay, right? It looks fine. Hey, it's going to be a bunch of your people. We're not going to tell people what to do, what to say. We're not going to pick who gets it, whatever. Like, it looks, they're doing all the right things, right? All the right things. But again, this is the trust, don't verify world we live in, where we're trying to get away from that, I should say, right? We're trying to go to a verify, don't trust world. And that's why the BIP-110 stuff has come up, though. Let's just cut to the chase with it, going back to what we were talking about earlier. This is why this has come up, because people are worried about this exact thing. They're worried about the developers, Gloria Zhao. They're worried about people who seemingly coming out of nowhere, and they're paid by OpenSats. Who is paying these people? Where are they getting their marching orders from? Do they have marching orders? That's what's concerning. So when you put all these pieces together, there's there are certain things that people are assuming are going on, if that makes sense, right? So that's how these things end up, because you can't stop someone from paying a developer, or paying some core developer, or a Nostr developer. You can't. How can you do that? You can't. So that's okay. But how does the network heal itself? It takes other steps, and if there's enough consensus, then it changes. And if there's enough miners that say yes, economic game theory says I should come over to this side, then it will happen. Like VD, I think you said earlier, right? Everyone should do their own homework and figure out what side they stand on and vote with their node, which again, we can actually verify what's going on. That's the beautiful part. Even though I do believe you should, in America, especially in America, you should be voting, actually voting. People died for that right to vote. But also signaling to people that, hey, I'm here, I'm with it. And mind you, there's not many people that actually vote in America, sadly. Like the Mandami backed people from a couple weeks ago, there's only like 10% of the electorate that voted in that primary. And yet most people think their vote doesn't count. But I digress. Anyway, you need to be voting with many different things. Your wallet, your feet, your actual vote. Many ways you need to be voting. And voting with your money here by taking your fiat out of the system and putting it into Bitcoin, and then running a node, learning a node, understanding what's going on. That is a vote as well. Voting in the system, and a vote we can actually verify. I think he meant sarcastically. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine he did, but you never know. You never know. The consortium, in my opinion, is like the Ethereum Foundation. And again, we've had some stuff too in Bitcoin like it. We've had similar type things. We have had coalitions. You have the Bitcoin Policy Institute. You've got the Satoshi Roundtable. You've got the not the miners. Oh my gosh, what was that? There was some other stuff in the early 2010s as well. I can't remember half of these things from 10 years ago now, but the ETH Foundation has direct control over the protocol, right? I believe so. I'm not an ETH expert. Might have to ask Andreas now, unfortunately. But Bossman said, "Good evening. The natural state of the free market is deflation." It is. It is the natural state of the free market. Zero. Yes, it is. It is obviously the natural state of the free market. The one thing, and Neil even said this too, is that the free market, unfortunately, we have fiat. So I think that the case that Neil makes, possibly, and then even I think about at times, is the free market. Because there's a lot of people think XRP or other altcoins, and I would be like, well, let the free market decide. You need to shut your mouth. Let the free market decide what the best coin is. And I was like, well, I am the free market. Like all of us here, all of us in this chat, we're saying Bitcoin is the right thing. We are signaling Bitcoin. We are choosing Bitcoin. We are the free market. But this is where I think that, again, in the BIP-110 debate and some of this stuff, Republican people, the people all over that take capitalism as a blank free market, the natural state of the free market. The natural state of the free market for my garden is weeds growing up all around it. So this is where we have to be careful, because, boss man, you're right. Jeff Booth is right. At the same time, that can also go the other way. That can also go sideways very quickly. Just like Neil said in this, the closer you are to the fiat printer, your magnet, your true north can get foggy. It could flip upside down. You can be going south. I go back to David Goggins with the Ranger School, and they do the running, and they have to do the land navigation, and you have to figure it all. There's no markers, there's no nothing, and you don't find out whether you get to the end and you completed your land nav, and they either drive you off the campus or drive you off the grounds, and you failed and you're done, you're gone, never to come back again, or you succeed, and that's it. It's just completely no emotion, like yes or no, yay or nay. And so that's the only part I think that I'm really trying to study more and understand, because I've been guilty of this over time, just saying the free market will decide. And many Bitcoiners are saying the fee market will decide, but we are the free market. People are deciding. And Genghis Khan comes in. He is part of the free market. You can't say, I'm not part of the free market, but everyone else is, or we are the free market and Genghis Khan is not. So whether you're educating inside of Bitcoin, or you're running your node, or every little action inside of that is part of the free market. It's the free market doing its thing to educate. There's pain over here. Someone comes to find education over here. That's all the free market doing what it needs to do in order to figure out the best answer for things. So anyway, interesting nuance, boss man, that I'm glad you brought up, because that's what really needs to be talked about more. This is something that's affecting Bitcoiners along with everyone else. So we can't always say that all the time. A lot of times there's a lot of things affecting the rest of society and not Bitcoin as much, but this is something that's affecting Bitcoin as well right now. That just having anyone just say, hey, you can do whatever you want whenever you want to my garden or to the borders of my country, there are some rules. You have to follow the rules, right? So anyway, that's the natural state of the free market is deflation in the sense of you create more technology, you create more goods and services, and then prices should come down because there's actual competition instead of the state coming in with subsidies or coming with nonsense. Because, to finish that thought, boss man, is not just you, but everyone, and I'm thinking it myself as well. The natural state is deflation of the free market. So what do we have now? Obviously, it's not a free market. It's a free market in the sense that we can choose what's going on here in America, but the natural state of the market right now is inflation. Most things are getting more expensive over time, save a few things, obviously. So the natural state is for humans to F stuff up and cause themselves more pain. Anyway, really interesting. We're going to talk more about that over time as well, much more. Yes, but we don't know the consortium would want to do in the future. Yeah, and I guess that's my point as well, Kachuk. It's just could be amazing right now. Could be the best consortium. Nope, just blacked out. It could be the best thing ever. Could be the best consortium ever, but we don't know, and that's why diligence, and that's why the consensus changes or forks, soft forks, hard forks, whatever. Which this won't be the first, won't be the last time these things happen. Again, you might not like war, but war likes you. Battling likes you. You have to love to battle. My college hockey coach always talked about that. You got to love to battle. You got to love to fight. And hockey's a game of one-on-one battles. And that's what we're constantly in, this battle. When you turn on the TV, when you turn on your phone, you're constantly getting propaganda. It's a battle all day, every day. And if you're not okay with that, then it's going to be tough. It's going to make it tough on you. So big block, small block, spam, no spam. It's the same bomb, the different wrapper. Yeah. So that's where the protocol itself, that's the free market trying to say, hey, I think there needs to be a different version here. And so free market is saying, hey, I want spam on the chain, on the time chain. Hey, I want a different version of this. Hey, I want to soft fork it, right? Like there's different, that's the free market doing its thing. And not everyone, just because someone's unhappy with one part of that, they say, oh, that's permissionless, or that's censorship, or that's, that's the free market, or whatever. Like they have these ideas to try to get their way at the end of the day. Love your passion for freedom. Thanks, Soap. I appreciate it, brother. We're in a fight for humanity, but people are confusing it for just wealth and fame. 100%. 100%. And like I said earlier, one of the best things to come out of all this is that the word influencer is going to get retired at the end of the day, which is amazing. I cannot stand the word influencer. Just cannot stand it. It's such a fiat thing. And just goes to show you that even if you have influence, or if you're an influencer in Bitcoin, you really don't have influence. How much influence do you have? So, I mean, it's great to see. It's great to see. There's a lot of things that were interesting in Bitcoin to me in the sense of that, because that's what Andreas talks about here as well. So let me see here. So what Andreas talks about, right, is like someone gets powerful enough where they say, we need to go this way. This is actually one of my big concerns like 5 years ago, was small drips over time and the narrative shift and the narrative changing over time. That to me was the biggest threat to Bitcoin, is the narrative just changing slowly underneath people's feet without them noticing. That really is by far to me. And then, decentralization, people being able to run their nodes next, but that narrative shift. And then for people to come in and say, yes, I believe, because this is the thing. We have the Elizabeth Warren. That's why I think this topic and what we're talking about today is so important. The Elizabeth Warren thing of people saying, well, I don't want terrorism. I definitely don't want that. I definitely don't want this on there. I can't have bad guys and cartels using Bitcoin, right? That's a very powerful persuasive effect that people have, because who wants that? Like, no one wants that. No sane, reasonable person wants that, right? It's very misguided and it's not truthful, but so be it, right? That's the world we live in. All is fair in love and war. And so the narrative shift, though, is what's really good to see that people are revolting against it. It's good to see that people actually exist. Bitcoin, I think it's ironic that we now have the Bitcoin Twitter is back again, Bitcoin X. And I've seen people now, I'm seeing people all over the place over the last week or so I've never seen in years, or I shouldn't say I'd never, but I haven't seen in years. And so it's good to see that right at this time, everyone's jumping back into the fight. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's great to see. Like I was getting concerned for the last 2 years. You had the ETFs really taking a lot of the energy out of the room and sucking it all away. And you're missing the toxicity, which again is when you have the toxicity, that shows you it's a protocol outside the system. The narrative shift was this, really twofold, is changing what Bitcoin really was or what it meant to people. Or do people care about sound money? Is it just a little thing to store in a vault and no one really uses it? And now I forget the second thing, but that to me was the biggest threat that Bitcoin had, was this narrative shift of it being, an asset and a protocol out. I just blacked out again. So hopefully you guys can hear me. But being a protocol outside the system, if people just think it's an asset inside the system, that's why the Clarity Act and what we talked about all today, if it's just Clarity Act, it's like, well, it needs rules and regulations. Bitcoin doesn't need any rules and regulations. We good. I don't need that. Crypto might, because crypto is a bunch of hogwash. It's a bunch of ICOs, and it's a bunch of SEC security. There's a bunch of securities and tech companies, scamming people, or maybe there's some real technologies, but it's just scams. That needs to be regulated, but not Bitcoin. But if people believe, if they have a narrative in their head and they believe that it's just an asset, another asset inside your portfolio, inside the system, then how does it become money over time? It gets pegged in that gold and asset chart with gold and silver and Tesla and whatever. It's just like an asset on this chart. And it's like, okay, it gets to 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 40 trillion, 50 trillion. No. Bitcoin's money. Bitcoin is the protocol that accounts for all of this. Just like we said, the time chain, in my belief, shouldn't be with doodles on the ledger. You don't have an accountant doodling all over the ledger and saying, well, here it is. Here's the Constitution on it. Here's this. Here's that. Here's a bunch of monkey images. That's not what an accountant does. They account for all the transactions of the economy. So if you want the Constitution, or if you want the monkey JPEGs, they're inside of the economic world, and then the time chain accounts for those transactions. If you want to buy or sell the Constitution, or if you want to do something, have the books or whatever, and you have the art pieces, the time chain accounts for those things. But we're conflating those two things and trying to put those things together. And we're gumming up the works and what it means to actually have money at the end of the day, an actual time chain that's relaying that information of the price discovery around the world instantaneously. So the mindset shift and being able to understand that it's a protocol off the system, off the Titanic, that is the 0 to 1 moment. That's the discovery of fire. So if that narrative shifts and it's just an asset inside the system, you're just going to store it over here like it's something different. Because again, what makes Bitcoin different than gold and silver, the physical tokens, as GG wrote in Bitcoin is Time, you have tokens, two types of money, ledgers and tokens, physical tokens. The tokens are wonderful if it's just me and you, we're in the backyard here and we're just have this little local economy, and like Ben Perrin and the guys have in Alberta, they have the local Sats market and stuff like that. They could just do gold and silver, right? You could just have gold and silver doing that and you'd be fine, because you could trade some gold and silver with your local community and their friends and the family and the people right around you. And Yapstones, like who owns what, because it's a small place, and hey, he's got that, I've got this, okay. But when you have a global economy with adversaries everywhere, people trying to attack you and take everything from you and scam you, everyone's a scammer, then you have to have a system that cannot be re-racked, that cannot be double spent, and it has to be instantaneous. So that's where you have the physical tokens, awesome, but the instant settlement, because of the ledger, because of this ledger that we have that can be going around the world instantaneously, that cannot be messed with, and people play inside that rule set, that's the 0 to 1 moment. That's the fire, the transaction, or the printer, the discovery of fire, the wheel, the printing press. And so confusing it for wealth and fame, that's it. And I think we're seeing that a little bit right now. I hate to say it, but I think we're seeing, humans do a lot of things in marketing. You have a world where people do things for status. Everyone does things for status, whether they think it or not. Hey, I'm getting this van, or I'm getting this truck, this Suburban, I'm buying Bitcoin, I'm getting this asset, I'm buying a new home, I'm getting this toaster versus this toaster and that coffee pot. Like they're things that are going to be that's going to raise my status or lower my status. And some of the greatest marketers of all time have talked about this, right? And so we have a world where, again, just like Neil talked about it, your true north can get messed up and can get foggy, and you can be going south and you think you're going north. You think you're winning the race, but you're really running the wrong race. You're on the wrong track, the wrong course. You can kind of lose your identity at times, and your friends and the people that kind of know you. There's one really interesting split that I'm seeing, just observing something. Maybe you guys have seen it too. Is it feels like, and maybe I'm off. It feels like there's a lot of older crowd. So people that are not OGs, but an older crowd, people that are have a lot more friends in the space, that are more apt to say, hey, what Core is doing is good. And then you have a lot of plebs, a lot of people that don't have influence, wealth, fame, are on the other side of the ship. Is anyone else seeing that? I think that's fascinating. Because again, I think that speaks a little bit more to just social human dynamics of, hey, if I don't know anyone in the space, I'm going to do what's best for me. But if I'm closer to the money printer, or I know people, or my business is attached to me knowing people of influence, or whatever it might be, right? Then maybe I'm more apt to go that direction. So again, more human social dynamics that are at play once again. So I think that's very interesting. I'm curious if anyone else has seen that either, or as well. Again, just a anecdotal thing that I've been kind of seeing, as you kind of see who's doing what, and who's aligning with who. That's just absolutely fascinating to me. So I love looking at stuff like that. I think I read on X that consortium went to donate the policy or consensus changes in mind, that they be based on just trust. Mm-hmm. For sure. And that's why gotta keep an eye. Same bomb, different wrapper. So true. FGU is far more important than number go up. It is 100%. So I mean, that's it, right? The production. That's what I said earlier. Like what Trump and what they're doing and everything that's going on. This fight goes way beyond that. Unearthing the British Crown, the industrial, the City of London complex, Brent crude, Lloyd's of London, causing wars, endless wars everywhere. All the NGOs, everything that they have done for centuries to create a wrapper around everybody and profit off of all of it. That's being unearthed. That ain't going away in 2 years in a Trump term. But that's been exposed now. Just like the media is exposed in 2016 by Trump. He's exposer in chief. I know I've been saying that for a couple weeks now. If he's done one thing, he's done this. It's exposing the media, exposing the election system, and then exposing the global apparatus, the great game, as they call it. So that to me is far more important, because the work is not going to stop. Just like in a couple weeks, whatever activates with Bitcoin, the work ain't going to stop. Politically, things ain't going to stop. Freedom, the fight doesn't stop, does not end. And that's good. It's okay. It's wonderful. That means there's always more opportunity to grow and get better. Freedom go up is absolutely more important. Freedom goes up, our wealth goes up. That's the beautiful part. When the freedom goes up, your standard of living goes up, everything gets better around you. Yeah, it truly is the lesson. Chris, I have some hockey cards. Yes, I have some hockey cards from when I played in the minor leagues, played in Alaska, played Charlotte, played in Bridgeport, Sound Tigers, the Islanders farm system, and Carolina Hurricanes. But most importantly, the most important card is the Bitcoin trading card, the Bitcoin athlete card that Aladdin Flynn did of me a couple years ago. I think last year, yeah. Amazing card, amazing guy, amazing company. One of the most based individuals we have in Bitcoin. And he's running an incredible business of educating Bitcoiners, using the trading card market to do it. And the cards are worth thousands of dollars, which is wild. He's built something unbelievable. and he's starting to take the trading card market more by storm. The Bitcoin, he made a dent in the Bitcoin world a few years ago, but he's starting to really do a lot more in the trading card market, which is really smart and really great for all of us. Orange pill, those people, that'd be amazing. New channel, I've not heard this yet. Yeah, so the new channel, I'll let you guys know, obviously. Like this channel here will probably be just doing more hangouts like this a couple days a week. Maybe I might try to do every week, possibly. Maybe a quick, 3 o'clock, 3:30, maybe for half an hour or whatever. Might go every day, who knows? But then the new channel, I'll let you guys know that we'll do interviews here. Summer's been tough. A lot of people have been all over the place. I've been all over the place. So the podcast will continue, probably somewhat muted. We're not going to be doing 8 or 10 a month like I was for a year and a half there. And this channel will be for hangouts like this, getting people together and dropping the pods, things of that nature. And then the new channel will be scripted and will be overarching 100,000 foot view of society, and hopefully attracting maybe some more broad band thinking, some political people, gold people, like freedom bugs, people that are thinking in that nature, like trying to cast a bigger tent than just Bitcoin necessarily, and trying to pull people in from all these different angles and to start seeing the light of bringing people to the water. That's going to be the Talking Head channel, a new separate Talking Head channel that we're going to be dropping. So I know you guys will really enjoy it. It'll be a high level of the things that I come on and rant about here on the different live streams. It's going to be a little more, researched, scripted. So, get a little bit more of an education, I guess, if you will. Not Sovereign Sessions. Correct. Yeah. Ben's doing Sovereign Sessions. That's his own thing he's doing. And I'm actually really pumped for Sovereign Sessions because that's going to be amazing. That's going to be how to run local AI models, your privacy stack inside of Bitcoin, running, the Fedi mints, doing all these things, the Graphene OS in your computer, being, Nostr VPN, Mesh VPN, doing all these things outside the system, because that's the thing that is so important. We have FU money now. If you are in self-custody, if you are off the system, if you're off the grid and you're not in that world, which I am not completely out of the old world, the legacy world. And that's why I'm so pumped for his new channel, because it's going to be the how-to of, hey, my channel will be, hey, this is what's going on in the world. Like if you want to see what's going on with Bitcoin itself and, TA and the charts and numbers, then you'd go watch like a Joke and Sorty's channel. If you want to see what's happening at a high level, what's being exposed the last 400 years and how it all relates and how it all comes together, and hopefully casting a bigger tent and bringing people into leading them to the water, that'll be this new channel that I'm doing. And then once you're ready, you kind of get to the bottom of that funnel and you want to see, hey, how do I really run all this in my life and really have FU money? That's where Sovereign Sessions obviously comes in of, hey, how do I really get off the grid and actually be my own sovereign individual? So, yep, little twins in the fall. Wild times. Congrats. Double the blessing. It absolutely is. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it so much, guys. City of London. There we go. Got a drink. It's coffee, but it works. Thanks, Soap. Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the congrats. Congratulations. Dishonest video title, making people think it's a Saylor interview. Shame. Well, you shouldn't shame people, because that's actually a spell, I believe. So I wouldn't suggest shaming people, anyone doing that. And I don't know why that would be. These are just all the topics we're talking about, so I'm not sure how that's dishonest. But I do appreciate your handle, though. I do like that. So cheers to that. I'll drink this last sip of my coffee for that. Fourth turning model says 2033, 2036. The fourth turning ends. A new first turning begins. I think we have had enough pain then. Honestly, VD, I think that's it. That's when I know the fourth turning model, which actually I didn't remember that the fourth turning model said that. I got to add that now to my mental repertoire, because I think of the power law, which, I'm not a massive power law guy, but interesting to note. And you have the demographic cliff. You have so many things, different cycles converging at the same time. Oh, and 2035, 2036 is, you have the Revolutionary War. It took 26 years, from 1763 to 1789, 26 years. So 09, 26 years later, that's 2035. There's so many things that come together. And I don't want to be the Aztec world ending in 2012 guy, because that's not at all what it is. But I feel like there's a lot, the amount of young people that will be in power. Also, the amount of Bitcoiners, like we talked about, I'm really a massive believer in the amount of people that are Bitcoiners, that have FU money, have a privacy stack, have everything set up, have true FU money in self-custody, running a node, and they have a certain amount of wealth. We're going to have a saturation point where enough people have enough wealth that actually can make an impact on society. They're now in Congress, literally, right? They're running in their local elections. They're getting elected. They are building cities. They're building companies. They're taking over. That's the power and persuasion that is truly needed at the end of the day. And that's what I foresee coming. And that's where, like you said, 2033 to 2036, I think is absolutely, I would even say 2033 to 2038, because that's 28 years. I kind of give it the 26, 28 years. 1791 is when we had the Bill of Rights. So to me, 2033 to 2038, that 5-year window is prime, absolutely prime. Yes, due to BIP-110 nodes and more education. 100%. Amazing. Amazing. Again, the contention, the emotion, everything, it smokes people out. It's amazing. Embrace it. Embrace it. Sit back. You don't need to involve yourself that much. Like, as you guys have noticed, I haven't involved myself very much. I'm much more of a person who's going to sit back and I take things in. I love when people get emotional, because then I can sit around, I can watch. You learn way more by watching what's going on and reading and just, staying quiet than you do trying to yap and pontificate all the time. And again, I'm a nobody. I don't have influence anyway. And again, this is the death of the influencer in Bitcoin. People can see, people start opening their mouth and they're like, then they realize and have to humble themselves that I really don't have any much influence. I don't have as much as I thought I did. I'm just here to spread Bitcoin and freedom and give people things to think about. Like, I don't, I want to hopefully get these books out here or stuff like that, but it's all to promote freedom, separating money and state. I don't care. I don't have a VC fund to sell. I don't have a company to sell. I don't have an exchange to sell. I don't have sponsors to whatever. If people feel like sending some sats to support the time, then wonderful. I'm gonna still keep doing what I'm doing, and I've literally been like this since I was a kid, running with the torch of liberty in my hand with any way I can. So it ain't changing. It's not going to change. As much as I try to run away from it, and I've tried to in my life, here I am. So after 2 years now, I just learned the difference between consensus and policy. There you go. I mean, look at that. The learning will increase. The learning will increase until morale improves, right? So good. I love that, VD. 1,000 gems, GOAT trophy. So I don't even know what these are. TRH, what's good? 100 gems, high five. Thank you guys. I don't know what that is, but I love it. I don't think I've seen these before. I don't think I've seen it. Interesting that you make a distinction between capitalism and anarchism, agorism. Yeah, it's interesting, VD, and like I'm going to touch on this much more going forward, because this is something that I just kind of took for granted, and I really was not totally aware of. I would just kind of lump myself into capitalism, and you have to be careful. By no means I'm the biggest opponent. I'm the biggest opponent, OPP opponent of capitalism, of socialism and communism. However, I can't say, hey, the inverse of that is capitalism. Like, oh, I'm just a proponent of that. It's nuanced, right? And I think there's going to be some version of that going forward. And that's where getting into the British Crown and John Locke and laissez-faire, hands off. It was hands off because it was do as I say, not as I do. The British Crown had their toe on the scales. Brent Crude, the Lloyd's of London, like they were LIBOR, all these things. They were pricing everything. They were making money on both sides of the wars, of the insurance, the maritime. But then they told us, oh, whoa, free market, man, free market. The fee market will win. Don't you worry. But then they were behind the scenes dictating a lot of what was going on. And you see a lot of the same stuff playing out now in the real world. You see out playing out in Bitcoin. But again, I would venture to guess almost no one knows about that. No Bitcoiners really understand that history. It's just, we're going to get there though. people are starting to hear about it. I mean, look, we started talking about the City of London and the British Crown 6 months ago, and now there's a lot of people that are looking into it. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, hey, wow, I've never saw this stuff before. I never really realized how deep it went, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I never saw this in that light. So we're getting there. It's just exposing the history that we've been blocked from. Moore's law and also technology over the long run is deflationary. Yeah. Yep. No, it is. It is for sure. As long as there are good, honest, just people, which we know there are, and we know there are more people than not. And that's the good thing to hang your hat on, because, and again, how can we prove it? Just like we can prove elections, you can't verify them, so we know therefore there is fraud. We can also prove that humans are good by nature, because all I have to do is point you to 8 billion human beings, and there's not 10 million shootings every day. There's not 10 million assassinations or 10 million executions, right? Humans are good. I could choose every day. You could. We all could choose to get up and to scam everyone else, to murder everyone else, and do it. But we're not. Most people don't do that. Almost, very few people do that. So we know inherently that humans are made good in God's image. It's a very easy thing to prove. But the incentives lead people astray. Like we were saying earlier, the root of the plant is the incentive structure. And so would humans be more charitable if they had more wealth, if we were on a Bitcoin standard? Right now, I would say yes, because right now we have a world where in an inflationary world with fiat currencies, when I have my time and energy slipping through my hands through inflation and my currency is being leaked away, does it really incentivize me to be more charitable, to go give to my church, to go give back to my community, to go give back to others when I have to work 2 jobs, or I'm scared because I might not have enough month left at the end of my money, right? I mean, it's just, you have to laugh, unfortunately, because you'd cry otherwise. That's the world. Solving drugs. What an intellectually minimalist view on this topic. Not speaking of you, Brandon. House of Freedom said, what's good? What's good? Good to see you. Yeah, and I don't know. I forget who said that earlier. House of Freedom. I don't know if they meant it like that. I think it was more of an acknowledgement of, hey, there are these problems, there are these issues, and that's why, again, we have to understand trafficking. Humans have to understand trafficking in general, and in all forms of it, sex trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, right? All the different forms. That's coming into purview. And that's now something that we're having to unearth. The exposure in chief, some of these different things. I think you're going to see more Epstein files, 9/11 files. Like, we have a lot of exposing that needs to be done going forward. And it's not going to end with Trump. Again, this is where this has to continue playing out. Look at the Twitter files a couple of years ago. We still don't. When you do it too fast, though, look, they dumped a lot of them, and like we don't even know what happened with a lot of it. I don't even know. I got to go back in and run it in through Claude and run it through an analyzer that I built, and like, hey, what was all happening here? Who was doing all this? Like, I don't even know. I'm sure a lot of us here don't know. We're pretty plugged in the system. I don't know what happened, because you have to kayfabe this out. You've got to create the narrative, create a story. You've got to do the fake Elon. I'm blowing out of the White House, and I hate Donald Trump. He's in the files, and then you get people to actually focus in on it. You get your adversary to say, "Oh, yeah, we got to get the files," when that's exactly what you wanted. But I can't make someone do it. Like Donald Trump says, "Hey, we got to look in the files." Then what do the Democrats do? They fight him and fight him and fight it. But if he says, "Hey, Trump's in it," because again, we know that was kayfabe, because then 6 months later, Elon's back in the White House. So again, that's part of the adversarial thinking and part of the critical thinking that, we all have to start learning. These are things that over time I've had to like, oh, wow, huh. At first I was like, whoa, that's pretty effed up. Like, that's not good at all. But then I started turning on the whole Epstein file thing when I realized, oh, wait, Elon's back with Trump? And so my mental model had to update 6 or 9 months ago and say, this is really weird. Same thing with Iran war. I was very put off by that. I was like, whoa, that's not what we're doing here, Trump. Like, that's not what we voted you for. And then all you saw was a lot of Bitcoiners. I'm just going to speak for Bitcoiners. That's the community that we're in a lot. A lot of people saying, it's the Jews, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. Could that be part of what's going on here? Of course. Follow the money, right? But then when the left, or what a lot of people are saying, libertarians, et cetera, Bitcoin are saying, there's going to be nuclear war, no more wars. But then there wasn't nuclear war in the first 72 hours, like everyone said there was going to be. Then your mental model has to start updating. And then when you listen to Scott Bessent, you're listening to these people saying, hey, this is what we're doing, or hey, we're taking out these old structures, and then you start saying, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was something else more here that I didn't connect. And then once I started looking into it, I started connecting what they were saying with my old mental models of the world and my study of history. And you're like, oh my gosh, these guys, I don't know if they're playing 5D chess, but they might be playing 4D chess. But it doesn't mean they're going to be right. You can still play 4D chess and still lose. And that's where, again, most people will just hear these words, and a lot of people will get upset. They'll just get emotional with me and say, oh, how dare you? But I'm not saying that Trump's a great guy. I'm not saying that he's the best person in the world. I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm not saying it. These things are all gray. There's nuance to this. And that's what's really, really challenging. And so you have to just roll with the punches and understand the adversarial thinking and the critical thinking and first principles and say, okay, these things didn't happen, so now I've got to update myself. Hey, Bitcoin didn't crash the other 470 times and go to zero like everyone said it was, so maybe I have to update my mental models. This is why Bitcoin is a humility test. It's not an IQ test. Slightly IQ, maybe, but it's a humility test. Can you humble yourself that maybe your model of the world is not correct? Maybe your predictions were not right. Maybe and I am constantly trying to do this. It's why I'm a Bitcoiner. It's why I'm sure many of you are Bitcoiners, because you realize I was a gold guy and silver guy, and I was a real estate guy. And then I realized, man, this no one's doing what I'm doing still. Real estate's really tough. It's taken me 10 years to get really good at it. And this isn't going to help anyone besides my tenants and some of my investors. We need something different, And so that's where, like, gold and silver. Oh, you know what? Hey, this Bitcoin thing. Wow. And I had altcoins as well 10 years or almost 10 years ago. I had 10 other altcoins, whatever was on Coinbase at the time, 9 years ago. And I was an investor, so I position sized. And so then I started really learning, whoa, Bitcoin's not like these other things. Bitcoin's not crypto, and crypto's not Bitcoin, right? We all know the meme. And so then you start doing the work, and you figure out really quickly, holy cow, these are not alike at all. And so your mental models have to keep increasing or keep updating, just a software update. Your brain has to keep updating, or else you fall way behind, and things become very tough. So anyway, long story short, I'm going off on a million tangents. Solving drugs is more understanding trafficking and understanding how the world works. If you don't understand the British Crown, understand the trafficking of opium, trafficking, pillaging India, Latin America, South America. If you don't understand the Dutch East India, or the Dutch East India Company and the British East India Company, but if you don't understand the shipping the last 400 years, and then that married with a central bank, if you don't understand how those things operate and those things work, then you're going to have a really hard time seeing it. And you just kind of see them in these silos like this, and you don't understand how they're married together. And the trafficking, all this stuff works with it. There's the slave trade, human trafficking, the sex trade, right? All these things went together, and it was done through these things. It was done through the flows of shipping, flows of insurance, the corporation, like all these different things that come together. That's what's so cool about the last 400 or 500 years, is because it's the breaking apart of the church, the Reformation, and understanding what was going on there, which is fascinating to me as a Catholic. I think it's fascinating what was happening, and to me, I know humans are messed up. To me, and these are shows for different days, but Peter was the first pope. He denied Jesus 3 times. That right there is Jesus is telling everyone, saying, hey, church is not always going to be great. I am the church, though. Like, follow me. I am perfect. But the humans are running the church. They're not going to be perfect. They're not going to be perfect. And it's the humility to understand that, which is, you see this throughout the course of life over and over and over and over again. If you cannot humble yourself, and you cannot update your mental model and learn and say, hey, these humans, they're messed up. This is the best thing we have going, but we're messed up. And I need the field hospital. You have such a hard time in life. For 39 years, I just keep coming back to these principles over and over again of trying to find that true north. Like we said with Neil earlier, trying to find the course and say, this is where I'm at. Am I off course? Where am I deviating? What's happening? So anyway, the last 400 or 500 years were just fascinating to me. The discovery of America, but then you have the Reformation stuff and the Enlightenment, and then you have printing press, and you've got the central banks really coming, and people starting to come over to America, obviously, which is part of that Reformation process, and people coming over, the king doing crazy stuff in Britain, and you have the next 200 or 150 years of the East India Company and what they were doing. And And this is why the Russians, Chinese, Indians don't like the British. This is this fight going on. We keep getting sucked into NATO. This is why BRICS has started. So if you don't understand all this back history, then a lot of things we're seeing now don't make sense. And this is why the global order is so pissed off at Donald Trump. This is why they hate Trump. It's because he's talking to Russia. He's talking to China. And he's talking to India. He's talking to the Abraham Accords. He's talking to the Middle East and saying, hey, you guys govern yourself. We're pulling the hell out of here. So people don't want forever wars. This is what's wild. People don't want forever wars. They don't want to be involved in the Middle East anymore. But Trump's actually doing what he can to try to get out of the Middle East. But we're just seeing it from myopic, short-term point of view. So, again, not saying that's exactly how it's going to play out. I'm maybe trying to manifest it slightly because that's what it looks like it's happening. But I'm also trying to manifest it and put that version, even if it's 90% right or 95%, to say, hey, this is where we all need to be going forward. I don't know totally what Trump is doing, but when you put the pieces together, what Dissent, Warsh, all these guys advance, and you see the attacking the Straits of Hormuz, attacking and not caring what's going on, disrupting it for your adversaries, taking on Lloyds of London, saying, well, and sure stuff, LIBOR and so forth has already been happening, the Brent crude stuff, and really taking Venezuela, which again, I was like, what are you doing? But you're taking these choke points, talking about Greenland, talking about Cuba. It's taking out and exposing the old structure. And that's where I don't like war as much as the next guy. At the same time, war is also diplomacy, or it's politics, I should say. It's politics in another form. And that's the world we are in. It's knowing the chapter of the book we're in right now. Do I like it? Do I love all the things going on in the world? Do I love the more slavery in the world than any time in human history combined? No, of course not. Unfortunately, you got to deal with the hand play with the hand you've been dealt. There's more to fear in not embracing this technology. It's a gift. Yeah, 100% war pain. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. House of Freedom. So anyway, back to that though, really quick. Solving drugs. That's what it was. I think it was the trafficking thing. It's really understanding that border flows. This goes back to, guys. This is another thing too. This goes back to the Balfour Declaration, the Sykes-Picot, and the Third Agreement that Britain had that created this whole problem in the Middle East in the first place, and giving the Middle East, what Trump trying to give the Middle East, trying to give Israel back to the Middle East, UAE, Qatar, Iran. I think Iran's a player in this going forward. I think that's what's hilarious in all this. He's like, oh yeah, they can have ballistic missiles. This is an economic war. This is not. That's what's frustrating, because everyone gets so emotional about it. And again, war is emotional, but watching what they're saying and then marrying it with history and what's been going on, it becomes very evident that, oh my gosh, these things look like they're playing out. They're trying to, the Abraham Accords are trying to get people economically involved, persuasiveness, get people economically involved together so they can do this together and be this cohesive. You got the new pipelines and things of that nature. So you have this world where you're trying to build an alliance instead of these people being at each other's throats. You're trying to get them to be aligned together instead. So anyway, I don't want to get too far off track, because we already had we had a dishonest title. I'll have to split test a few different titles in here as well. Make sure we're not being dishonest with everybody. There's more fear, not embracing or pain. Yeah, great to see you, brother. Great to see you. Great insight, Brandon, about adversarial thinking. Thank you, VD Berg. Thank you. Letha, thank you. Thank you so much for the congratulations. Thank you. Cold Deck, great to see you. Howdy. Another word for early is wrong. Nothing is settled yet. Yeah, exactly. It's true. And so it could be with Bitcoin. We're early because you're wrong until it happens. Could be with the war and stuff as well. That's why I've said too with the carrier. Hey, you flew the sortie. You did all what you needed to do. You had the right game plan. You had the right enemy. You had everything, but got to land on the carrier still. And it's not a success unless you can land on the carrier. So we'll see. You know, it looks like the Trump. It looks like the real hiccup so far, in a way, I guess, has been not striking them harder. Because there's only been like 35 or 40 days of bombing as of a week ago. Now I know they've been bombing every day since so it might be 45 days of the 120 days or whatever. So this goes back to really just not fighting war with a purpose in general, and thinking, hey, again, you don't want nuclear war, but it's funny. I was watching something about Japan in World War II, and they figured out how to get napalm then, and a lot of the talk about the nuclear bomb then was that it would save more lives than the napalming that the Americans were doing, because the Japanese were starting to do the kamikaze stuff, and it was just going and going. So they figured out, hey, we got the B-29s, and they can come in low and then napalm the cities, the military stuff, whatever. And then they figured, they were trying to do the calculations. They're like, hey, we figured out the bomb, and we think if we can strike these targets, it'll actually do less damage. And then obviously the whole long run thing, like, hey, if we keep playing this out. So it plays into that of like, if we keep playing this out, we're going to kill more people doing this. So it's fascinating. But this, again, just like BIP-110, just like some of these things, just like this consortium that we were talking about earlier, and some of these different factors, it's very hard to see things that are in the future, or they are ephemeral, they're invisible, right? So protocol changes, whatever. All these things are invisible. The consortium, okay, what does that mean? Like, I'm not there. What's easy to see, though, is a threat on your life right now, right? The British are coming. Like we said earlier, looking at this, the Lexington Green, that's easy to see, because I can see that the British are coming. 70 men, only 70 got up, a small irate minority said, hey, we're not doing this. That's easy to see. It's hard to see the ephemeral. It's hard to see the invisible things, doing the calculations saying, hey, if we don't do X, Y, and Z, this is going to continue happening. Hey, if we don't unearth the global great game, the British Crown, the City of London, how they're controlling everything. They're controlling the energy passages. They're controlling, because you can't see how many people have been killed by the British Crown. It's happened all over the world. We don't know. But more importantly, economically, how many people have been killed or hurt by this system that the Crown has been running roughshod over everyone? So many people in the world because of this system. That's ephemeral. That's so hard. How the hell do you tell that to the average voter? You can't. And that's why you have kayfabe. That's why you have people so pissed off, because you can't just sit down for 12 hours and just educate people on life and what happened. Of course, no one would pay attention. So you just take action. You just go forward, and hey, some people are going to be pissed. Some people, are going to figure it out, and such is life. That's what's very tough right now, is when you have 100 years of compulsory run government schooling and people have no background, no education, reading levels are in the toilet, damn near everything's in the toilet, critical thinking is gone, people hate America. The communists have done a very good job of causing self-loathing. Americans' own hatred of their own country, of their own founding, being lied to about everything. So of course, that's a great way to defeat the capitalists. It's a great way to defeat America, a great way to defeat the biggest army. It's a great way to defeat the greatest country and the greatest documents, is by them hating themselves. This is a recipe that's known. This is not a new recipe, but it's very hard to see, because it happens drip, 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 drip over long periods of time. Sato millionaire, silly JPEGs in the blockchain free market. They are junk. Yeah, hey, go sell your JPEGs. Just do the accounting for it on the time chain. Novel idea, right? Just do the accounting for it. Hey, sell your JPEGs on Ethereum or on some other chain, and then you can account for that transaction over on the Bitcoin time chain. Novel idea. But again, that's why we said earlier that to me, the biggest threats are the narrative shift, people not understanding, thinking Bitcoin is just another asset, and then also Bitcoin not being decentralized, and the average person not being able to run a node. Those are, to me, the two biggest threat vectors to Bitcoin. So narrative shift over time. So narrative management, perception management, managed decline, just like we're seeing from the British Crown and what's been happening over time with America. But also that happens with the Bitcoin protocol as well. People believing something else, believing it to be something else, believing it is something to just be a file management system, or believing it's something else out there. I question the change of the algorithm shift from X. Why now? Liquidity pump, something has changed. Yeah, I think it's fascinating, Cold Deck. Absolutely fascinating that it's happening at this time right now. It's beyond fascinating. Oh, VD, yeah. Did I say it was going to be a short stream? But once he starts, there's no stopping. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I probably did say that earlier, but I know going forward, I think maybe in the late afternoons, I'll do a 30-minute stream in the future going forward. Maybe just like a quick one, maybe when some of the kids are laying down or something like that. So some of the days that I'm on, no problem. Some of the days the kids are sleeping, then I'll do a quick stream. That'll be this channel. So the podcast going forward, and then maybe a daily stream type of thing. And then the new channel will be more scripted. It'll be more direct, more information, more packed, where this show will be more hanging out, talking about some current events, building community with each other, and then the podcast. So that's what this channel will be. So that hopefully makes sense to everyone. Some of the new people that came in today. It appears a lot of the plebs who support BIP-110 quite vocally have not been around very long. Yes, Brendan. I think that's it feels like that a little bit too. And it feels like there's a little bit of animosity towards that, right? It feels like some of the older crowd is for core, which makes sense. And it feels like some of the younger crowd in Bitcoin, meaning like time in Bitcoin, is for the change. It's not right, wrong, or different. It's just an interesting note. And so it feels like there's some animosity between those two groups of people, which you have to be careful of, right? Because the younger group as well has, you have to check your cognitive dissonance everywhere, because the younger group hasn't seen the block size wars, hasn't experienced big pumps in Bitcoin. The older group has, right? So you have to take all these things into account. Very, very fascinating. And it just goes, this all goes into the game theory. It all goes into your critical thinking, etc. 410, Steve, nothing but facts. Thanks, brother. I don't know what I was saying earlier when you said that, because I'm a little behind here, unfortunately, but I appreciate you saying that. Kacha, but Canute, though, maybe an outlier. Yeah, you're saying for BIP-110. I mean, there's numerous, I don't know, OGs or people that have been in for a while that support BIP-110. So it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just an interesting conversation. And again, if you guys are coming in later, people are coming in later, whatever. This is a really interesting stream. We had a ton of stuff today. We kind of went over everything. This is probably one of my favorite streams I've ever done, to be quite honest, because we went through adversarial thinking, critical thinking, the history of what's going on right now with Trump and the exposer in chief and the British system, Saylor, what's happening, old Bitcoin history, new, where this is going in the future. So really a fascinating talk. So to me, my whole point with a lot of it today was we can not agree with everybody, but we can still love each other. That's the big thing at the end of the day, is you can not agree with everybody. And even if your wealth is all tied up into it, like many of ours is, it's okay. The sun will rise tomorrow. Just remember that. Please remember that. And so fight for what you think is right. Do your own research. Mudslinging is not going to help anyone, as we've seen. Even being an influencer is still not going to really help anyone and persuade anyone, which is really beautiful about this system. So do your own research, but still love everyone. Have love in your heart for everyone. Because when we go cold and we go dark, that's when really bad things happen. Again, we saw 100 years ago when that stuff happens, blaming a group of people for things or doing whatever. Like, these bad things can really start happening. And we see it all over the world. We see the Uyghurs in China right now. We see what's going on, I believe, in Sudan right now. Genocide going on. We see what's going on potentially in Iran or Israel. Again, I'm not in either place, so I don't really know what's going on. There's massive death tolls apparently that each country is doing to their other side or own people or whatever. Who knows? But the whole point of all that is when your heart goes dark, then you kind of lose the point of life. Well, you do lose the point of life. So those that have a vested interest in the current state of the chain oppose BIP-110 because businesses will have to adjust, and they don't like that. Those that have a vested interest in the current state of the chain adjust, and they don't like that. Yeah, and which is also natural, because that humans don't like change either, right? Humans just don't like that. Dang, the sun keeps moving. Think about it. Andy owns Blockstream, Samson to Jan3, Saylor to Strategy, Foundry are passive on it, but they prefer the current state. Yeah, it's just easier, right? Like, it's just easier for people to go along to get along, type of thing. It's easier for people to just kind of keep the status quo. And oh wow, look at Barry. There you go. Look at that. Beautiful. So thank you, Brennan. Appreciate it. Congrats, little ones. Love your humility, brother. We all need to update our mental model sometimes. Well, thanks, BD Berg. That's the only thing I'm trying to, whether it's my faith or it's in Bitcoin, my study. It's the only thing I have. Sorry, truck going by. It's the only thing I have is my humility at the end of the day. Bitcoin itself is the humility test. It is a humility test. It's that north, guiding north, like your faith, Christ, 10 Commandments, and Bitcoin. These uncompromising things that are it's just humility. It's not an IQ thing. And that's it. That's the only thing I try to work on. And that's, I'm not perfect. I try to live what I preach. And that's why I go back to loving other people as well. I think it's fascinating. Like, we need these fights. We need this stuff. I love that people on both sides are getting in the mud. I mean, I hate it, but at the same time, I love it. You get to see, where people's incentives lie. You get to see, who said what before, but now they're backwards and this and that. Like, it's amazing. It's great. I mean, again, now you have to update your mental models. This goes back to what we were saying earlier in a different form. When things change, when there wasn't nuclear war, the first 72 hours of the Iran war, okay, Brandon's got to update his mental models. I thought that I didn't think there was going to be a nuclear war potential or possible. Or I'll say this: when I heard U.S. struck Iran, my stomach flipped. Like, it was like I could feel like a pit in my stomach. So even though I didn't really think there was going to be nuclear war, I'm still susceptible to what I'm hearing everywhere as well, and I'm trying to constantly humble myself and say, hey, I'm not in the situation room. I don't know what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what's something I'm always trying to focus on is how can we love each other more, but also if something was a certain way and then now those things aren't happening or things have changed, I need to update myself. I need to update what's happening here. So Cranston Air, what's good, brother? Brando, what is good? What is good? Again, I could name 5 or 6 people on one that I know that call me Brando, and count them all. Going to sleep now. It's midnight here in the Netherlands. Take care. God bless you, and God bless your wife and kids. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Appreciate you so much. Take care. We're gonna win. We're gonna win. We're gonna repopulate the earth. We're going to win. Oh, that's what I was gonna say earlier about repopulating. When you have a bunch of people thrown in, like the Balfour Declaration or in Sykes-Picot, and what the British did to the Jews and to the Middle East there, and just disrupting the bee's nest and just throwing people there and then just lying to everyone there. You had a bunch of people that weren't assimilating, they weren't doing anything. We're seeing that right now in America, right? I have no problem if you want to go anywhere in the world and you want to go assimilate to that culture and say, hey, I love your culture. I want to, like me, American guy, I'm going to Scotland, I'm going to Spain. I'm going to learn Spanish and I love this culture. It's my favorite place on earth, whatever. I love the documents, I'm being that. Okay, that's wonderful. But if you're just going there to spam the system, spam the network, whatever, well, now we have problems. Now we gotta figure out some solution. We gotta figure out what's happening. And so the incentive structures, the rules, the protocol, whatever's happening here, that's the problems that we're dealing with all over the place now. So if you're coming to assimilate and say, hey, I like the rules here. I like that we're using this as a money, as an accounting system, as a triple entry accounting system. I'm going to use it for that. Okay, great, wonderful. Or I'm going to come here. I'm going to follow the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and I'm going to learn the language. I'm going to assimilate to the culture. I'm going to observe all the holidays, and yes, let's rock and roll. Sure, I don't care who you are, what you look like. It doesn't matter. If you're on the mission, if you're in the trenches, and you're on that mission, cool. Let's rock, man, and grab the musket and go. But we're trying to make everything the same everywhere and whatever. It's just no. We're gonna have problems. It's early morning for me. Just got off my graveyard shift. Dang. Let's go. W. Wallace, what's good? Thank you for the smiley face. Cold Deck, great to see you. Great to see you. Great stream. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you. Wow, great talk. Had a great talk today. Going for over 2 hours, 2:20. Appreciate you guys a ton. We had a lot of stuff today. And again, if you haven't, appreciate you guys at SenseSats. Thank you so much. If you haven't watched the whole talk, I'm really curious to see anyone who hasn't seen the whole thing. Go watch this talk today. Let me know what your thoughts are. Put it on 2x, 1.5x, and we hit a lot of stuff. And we're going to win. Bitcoin's going to win no matter what happens. The fight continues. The fight absolutely continues no matter which direction we go. Got a new channel coming. going to be overarching structure of everything we talked about today, and exposing things. So, because it's really, we're entering a world, like I said, it's not red versus blue. It's really collectivism versus individual sovereignty. That's the world we're in. So I don't know if it's communism versus some form of anarcho-capitalism, voluntarism, libertarianism, conservatism, classical liberalism, like, right? It's all these things kind of put together, this new freedom world that's being built, and it's going to be built by the builders, by the people that are actually building that new world. Because there's numerous people out there, which communism is a satanic mindset. Father Ripperger is a great show he did with Sean Ryan a few months ago, like whatever it was, in February, March. And he literally talks about that very thing. He's an exorcist, and he deals with evil spirits all the time. And he says, yes, communism is a satanic mindset. It's many of the same characteristics. And it's a take, and hurt others for my own gain type of mentality. And that's not the way we were built. It's not the way humans were built. And so it's very destructive for the culture and for society. And that's, yeah, I love it, Kachuk. Grinding for more sats. Heck yeah, we are. Heck yeah, we are. So again, I appreciate you guys. That's why I appreciate you guys that have supported the show and sent sats, because it's, like I said, we got rid of the sponsors that we have on the show and stuff like that. I don't know what we're gonna do with the new show. The new show will be a separate thing, but like this channel, got rid of stuff. The new show, yeah, I don't know. I have guys that are controlling that. Awesome dudes that are controlling that. They're gonna handle all the back end of it, actually. So that'll probably be a little bit different, but everything is me and my voice and my scripting and so again, separate thing. But this channel, yeah, I don't know. We probably won't have sponsors, I don't think. We'll just do the live streams, like I said, a couple times a week, or maybe once every day for a little bit. Do the pods over time, and just do sats. So I love that take on communism. Yeah, I mean, this is, again, I'm excited to go into this more, in the communism versus capitalism, and this kind of fake prison of two ideas, and just kind of exposing that more. And communism itself just being a sick mindset that people feed on, that evil feeds on, and evil, communism takes the cracked nature of humans. It takes the crack that's in all of us, the cracked vessel that we all are, and it wedges itself in that crack, and it just flourishes in there, and really makes us, hate ourselves, hate each other, just be black-pilled about everything. And it's just a very destructive culture and narrative. So that's why it's the world we're in now, what we're fighting now, which is wonderful, because, hey, we're here for the fight. No better time. Why not us? Why not us? Good stuff, guys. Great stuff. I want to understand where they came from. What are you talking about, Kachuk? I understand where what came from. While you're doing that, let me see here. Yeah, so we talked about so much. The nodes, BIP-110, Clarity Act, the consortium that Saylor's got, adversarial thinking. Your adversary. Know your adversary type? I don't know if I know. I like that take on communism. Adversary type. Okay, you got to explain a little bit more still. Oh, why do communists think the way they do? Well, I just think that we all have that in us. Like, I always have said to people for years, communism on paper makes sense, and that if it's like we're all equal, everyone gets equal things, like, it theoretically that makes sense. Like, sure, why not? Like, why can't we just make everything equal? I mean, the problem is it doesn't account for human nature. So you have people that to me, from 20, 30 years of just looking at it, what it boils down to me is it's evil. It's a cracked nature of all of us. We're all fallible. We all know the difference of good and evil now, right? We're in the garden. They were only knew good and they only knew abundance. And then they ate from the tree of good and evil, or the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so then now they know the temptation. Now you know. So we all have that in us. We all have the ability to be tempted and to scam the system, to be a scammer. Everyone's a scammer. Like, we all have that in us. And we can choose every day to get up each morning. I can choose, do I go this way and be a productive member of society and go try to build something and better everything around me? Or do I go shoot up under the bridge? Everyone can make that decision. It's that easy. Do I want to go be super successful? How successful do I want to be? Or do I want to go shoot up under the bridge? That's always a decision that any of us can make. So communism itself incentivizes that cracked nature of humans. It just festers in there and incentivizes the worst qualities inside of us of take. I can be lazy. It's someone else's fault. And really, that's what it comes down to too. I've talked many times, not in this stream today, but Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor, personal development, how unbelievable it would be if politicians and schools would teach and know this. Like, if politicians would know personal development and schools would teach these things and understand that you aren't a victim. Everything happens to everyone. Every story is different, but everything happens to everyone. We all die someday. We're born and we all die. Everything happens to everyone. There's all bad things happen to you, good things happen to you. As Jim Rohn says, with the talk from he gives, decades ago, he's like, well, I can tell you folks, gentlemen, the 70s, the 80s, they're going to be a lot like the 70s, a lot of opportunity mixed with chaos and crisis. That's what life is. And it's humans wanting to be lazy, the path of least resistance, wanting victimhood, wanting things done for them. So we look for scapegoats. We look for the easy answer. We look for the other way out, some excuse, some rationalization of why we didn't do X, Y, Z, or why we didn't get something, or we want a reparation because we were born a certain way, or we are born in this area of the world, or whatever. When in reality, we see all over the place, there's examples of people making it and doing it from every walk of life. But it's just that temptation to take, that temptation to be a victim, that temptation to just say, like the serpent said to Adam and Eve, he's like, oh, you think, God, you should know everything. You should know good and evil because God's keeping that from you. And God was giving them everything. God gave them Adam and Eve everything. And the serpent was still able to tempt. And because Satan is so, he is so distraught, and he's in such chaos, and he's in such turmoil all the time, 24/7, that he wants other people. Misery loves company. He wants other people in that state with him, and he can never satiate it. So he's constantly trying to tempt all the cracked vessels he can find in order to control them and to turn on God, and because that's what he did. So, and communism just festers that communism is that kind of expression in economic policy. And that's why you have Karl Marx's dad and everything, writing to him, like, you're a joke. Like, what are you doing? And so Karl Marx was just very unsuccessful and he was very unhappy. And so he's blaming everyone else. He's, it's their fault. It's so-and-so's fault. And so it just, can't find the right word, not relies, but it just prods and needles at the worst qualities of humans. And that's why, like Father Rippinger has said, it's a satanic mindset. That's what that devil does. Pokes and prods those worst qualities in you and says, oh, you can do a little bit more, and you should be a little more selfish. They don't know what they're talking about. You're a god. Also, the source of value. No, value must be created somewhere, and that can't be equal. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is money. Right? Money is just a container for that time and energy, that value. That value is created between human beings. And value is not, I can create less value than you can, or maybe I create more value than you. And so that's subjective, and that's to the market, subjective to the market, and it's also different for each person. So humans are all human. They're all God's children, so they're equal, but we're not made with equal qualities. We're not like, I'm a better hockey player than many people, but I have a lot of people who are better salesmen than I am, or a better, you name it, than I am. Many things. I was really good at skating on frozen water. Like, that was my highest quality of, like, I was a really good skater. It helped me become a really good hockey player. That value doesn't transfer to other areas of life super easily, but that is not equal. And then on top of that, I was born in Michigan. I was born with a pond by my house. Like all these different things. These gave me advantages that were on top of my skill sets. So you extrapolate it across life, and you see that everywhere. Like the book Outliers talks about that all the time. Malcolm Gladwell's book, phenomenal book. Also, if everyone was equal, it would be hard to strive for better because we have no vision of what is better. Exactly. And that's what communism tries to do, right? In theory, on paper, and like we say in hockey, you can't just throw your sticks on the ice and win the game. You have to play the game. So communism is great on paper, in theory, saying, hey, we're all equal. But in practice, when you throw the sticks out there, when you actually go out and play the game, it just completely falls apart. Communism falls apart under its own weight because you keep taking from everyone and incentivizing no work to be done. Again, why if I'm taxed at 50% or 80% or 90 or you take all my stuff, what would incentivize me then to go work? There's nothing incentivizing me. So then the population just collapses in on itself, and that's what eventually happens. And people are at each other's throats, and you guys know the story, and on and on and on. So there's no incentive structure to support that at the end of the day. So we're equal in God's image. We're human beings. The sanctity of our life is equal, but what we produce and how tall we are, how much we weigh, right, and all these things are not equal. And that's where like this conflating comes in, and we conflate all these things together and just like broad brush it and say, oh, everyone should be equal. And again, Bitcoin itself, like life's not fair. And Nolan Bowerley, one of my good friends and a friend of many of yours, right? He says, fair is for children. The word fair. What do children say all the time? It's fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. Well, life's not fair. And that's the biggest lie we can probably be told anywhere. Like the devil told Adam and Eve, like, it's not fair. It's not fair that God knows everything and you don't. The angels know everything, right? The angels knew everything. That's what makes Lucifer falling, choosing against God, so damning, and why he went right to hell. Is he knew better. He knew his existence. Humans don't know their existence. We don't know, so we're given some grace there. And that's why we have that redemption arc, and we have that available to us. We don't know our existence, and that's where things are different. So yeah, it's and Bitcoin is an equal playing field, right? It's not equal outcomes. It's not reparations or equal outcomes or whatever. It's equal playing field. So the cream then rises to the top. It's the people that are best at providing value, or they provide value and then they don't spend as much as they provide. They are then rewarded. And this is where a ditch digger can earn more than a doctor, right? If a doctor is earning 1 Bitcoin a year and say 10 Bitcoin a year, doctor earns 10 Bitcoin a year and the ditch digger earns 1 Bitcoin a year. And after 10 years, but then the doctor is spending 10 Bitcoin, if he earns 10 Bitcoin a year and he spends 10 Bitcoin a year, right? The ditch digger earns 1 Bitcoin a year, but only spends 0.9 Bitcoin a year. So he saves 0.1 Bitcoin every year. After 10 years, who's wealthier? Well, at the end of 10 years, the doctor would have 0 Bitcoin. He spends everything every year, and the ditch digger has 1 Bitcoin. So again, it's an equal playing field where you get to capture the deflation of the market, and you also have a world where it democratizes things, and it creates this even playing field where if you consume less than you make, then you can grow wealthier. You can be anyone. You can work at McDonald's. You can be a ditch digger. You can be a lawyer. You can be a doctor, and you can then save your time and energy in something that cannot be stolen from you. So amazing stuff, guys. If you did not watch this whole stream, I would be fascinated, curious to get your thoughts after watching it and going back and watching it. Appreciate those of you who sent sats. Like I said, I think this will be the kind of the new thing we do going forward. Looking forward to do some just more live streams, I think, in general here. Just building community, hanging out with you guys, doing the podcast. We'll have more podcasts again here going forward in the future. And the new channel. I'll let you know about the book they're writing, The New Common Sense, Separating Money and State. Thomas Paine wrote about separating church and state. And we're separating money and state. So it's the argument for why this needs to happen. Not an argument for Bitcoin. It's the argument of why we need to separate money and state. And then the new channel. We will talk about the new channel as well. That'll be coming in the next few weeks. And The doctor still got about 50 million sats, assuming transaction fee. Oh, I love it. And we'll let you know about the new channel as well. So that'll be a lot of fun too. Gonna be bringing, hopefully broadening the tent of separating money and state and bringing more people to the water. Can't make people drink, but just exposing that the water is there. And hopefully more people will be drinking from the sound money pool. So appreciate you guys a ton. Epic rip. We will be back tomorrow. We will be back tomorrow. Do a live stream later in the afternoon again tomorrow. Probably start around 3:30, and then BitCast at 5 p.m. Eastern, all Eastern, 3:30 Eastern live stream here, and then 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern BitCast with the sessions crew. So appreciate you guys a ton. Kachuk, great seeing you. So good seeing all you guys. VD Berg earlier. So many people. Johnny Midas. I think I put your thing up there, Johnny. Sorry, I don't know if I said what's up to you or not. I saw it, but I don't know if I said it. Waste Management, Web Dev Newbie, Web Dev Newbie. Wow. Kachuk, obviously earlier, so good. Chris, great seeing you. Saw War Paint earlier. Letha, Boss Man, Soap Miner. Go get some soap. Put some good stuff on your skin. Great soaps. City of London. Gotta put that over. YouTube is Marxist. YouTube is Marxist. Thought we had our title was lying. So we'll test some different stuff as well. We did talk about everything in the title. So City of London. Gerard with the gems. TRH with the gems. The high fives and all that stuff. House of Freedom. Cold Deck. Sato Millionaire. Great seeing all you guys. Brendan Hughes. 410 Steve. Let's go. A lot of people in the chat today. A lot of people in the chat. Cransinator. W. Wallace. Let's go. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all of you guys. I arrived late. J Studio Productions. What's up, man? Oh, man. All right, well, go back. Jay, please watch the show. Warpaint, good to see you, brother. Have a great evening. God bless all of you. Godspeed. We're going to win. Stay humble. Truly be humble. Love each other. We're going to win. No matter what happens, we will win. Freedom will win. We're on the arc upwards, guys. We're on the arc upwards of wealth and prosperity. Do not fret. Jay, go back and watch. I would love a comment later. Well, at least the first like 30 minutes, 45 minutes at least. But the first hour, man, we talked about so many things. Really just getting a lot of my thoughts out there. Haven't been able to do a ton lately, especially this summer. Like I said, we got twins coming later this year, 6 little ones. A lot going on, homeschooling the kids. My wife and I doing that. And so we're just juggling a lot, doing a lot of stuff, and trying to give where I can. So I appreciate you guys. Let me know your thoughts and comments on it, because I just kind of like a brain dump and download today of so many things. Trump, what's going on in the City of London, the British Crown, what's going on there, Israel, the Jews, Sykes-Picot. I mean, we talked about so many things today, just giving a high-level perspective on everything, and just kind of, like I said, a brain dump of what I think is going on. It's never what it seems. I don't claim to have all the answers, but we talk about updating mental models, staying humble, and updating our mental models when things that you think are going to happen don't happen. That's when we have to update our models. And so I think that's we talked about trafficking, the East India Company, so much. But we're going to be doing so much more of this as well on these live streams and also on the new channel. So check it out. Let me know your thoughts. For anyone that didn't see the first hour, speed through it. Let me know. Love to see the comments later. Appreciate you guys so much. I have much updating to do. Congrats on the twins. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless all of you. We will see you guys tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on this channel, and then BitCast on BTC Sessions channel, 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Thanks, guys.